Okay, I declare the meeting open. I'm Darcy Byrne, I'm the Mayor of the Inner West Council. I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and paying my respects to their elders, both past and present. We have an apology from Councillor Tastan for tonight's meeting due to the illness of a family member. I'll move that that be accepted, seconded by Councillor Atkins. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. I'm now required to read to you.
Sorry, Mayor, we also have an apology from Councillor Antonew, who is sick.
Oh, okay, no problems. So, Councillor Atkins will move that we further accept an apology from Councillor Antonew for illness, and that's seconded by Councillor Barlow. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. I'll now read to you the statement of ethical obligations. The Mayor and councillors are bound by the oath or affirmation of office made at the start of the council term to undertake their civic duties in the best interests of the people of the Inner West Council and to faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers and authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act or any other act to the best of their skill and judgment. It is also a requirement that the Mayor and councillors disclose conflicts of interest in relation to items listed for consideration on the agenda or which are considered at this meeting in accordance with Council's Code of Conduct and Code of Meeting Practice. Disclosures of interest, councillors. Councillor Scott.
Issue, but it is right now. I'll declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item 53 together too, because my son volunteers at that community organisation. I will remain in the chamber for the discussion and the voting. I declare a significant and pecuniary interest in item 55, Lambert Park RPL lease conditions, because my home is adjacent to Lambert Park and I will exit the meeting for the debate and the vote. And I declare a significant and pecuniary interest in item 52, the VPA for Lords Road, because my house is adjacent also to that planning site and I will exit the chamber for the debate and the vote.
Thanks very much, Councillor Scott. Further disclosures? Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Mayor. I declare a significant pecuniary interest in item 15, the Inner West annual grants, as my partner and her dad's business has applied for various grants in this upcoming grants round, and I will exit the chamber for that item. I'll also declare a further declaration for item 17, the Reconciliation Action Plan, as this item refers to the Inner West Anti-Racism Program, which has engaged Western Sydney University's Challenging Racism Program. My partner is a facilitator with that program as part of her role at Western Sydney University, and I will exit the chamber for this item.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Barlow and then Councillor Rosidi.
I declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in items 3, local traffic committees, and item 9, local transport forum meetings, as I work in the office of Kobe Shetty MP, who in her capacity as a member for Balmain had a representative on both in all meetings. I will remain in this meeting during discussion and voting on the matter as her vote is exercised through a representative.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rosidi.
Item 6, I declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. I live nearby. However, I will leave the meeting for this item. And for 55, significant pecuniary conflict of interest. My husband is the president of the RP Leichhardt Tigers and my son is on the board. And also 56, Lords Road, I'll be leaving the meeting for pecuniary interest for that one. And I'll be leaving the meeting for that one too.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rosidi. Are there any further disclosures? If not, the Deputy Mayor will move their acceptance, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. I'll ask councillors to ensure that those declarations have been submitted in writing to the minute takers. We'll move on to the confirmation. I'll now ask everyone to join me in a moment of quiet contemplation. Thank you. We'll move on to the confirmation of minutes of the meeting of the 19th of August. Are there any clarifications or corrections to those minutes?
Mayor, I'd like to pick up a mistake in the minutes. I've provided the wording earlier just for item 55 to change the word advertising to advancing.
Thank you for that. Yes, Deputy Mayor. Seconded. Are there any further corrections? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. There are no condolence motions or mayoral minutes. Sorry, we'll go next. I'm all over the shop tonight. We'll go next to the public forum. So we have 3 items tonight for which there are registered speakers in the forum. And there are a total of 7 speakers, which is 73 fewer than we had last night. The first item is item 6, Blackmore Park post-exhibition, Blackmore Oval. Item 14, events and engagements at the Inner West Sustainability Hub, and item 28, Leichhardt Park Wharf and Pontoon. There's no one here for any other item. If there's anyone here for another item than those, something's gone wrong with your registration and you need to come and let us know now. The first speaker on item 6 is Katerina Adicote of Lilyfield. Now, Katerina is online. Just before you begin, I'll let you know, Katerina, and everybody else, under the Code of Meeting Practice, you're able to speak for 3 minutes. After 2.5 minutes, you'll hear this bell, and that's an indication that it's time to work up to your crescendo. We're not in the practice of extending time beyond 3 minutes, because if you're the first person to speak tonight, you may be tempted to, but if you're the last council staff member to leave after cleaning up tonight, you wish that everybody had stuck to time. Katerina?
Hi, thanks for having me. And it's fine. I don't think I'll go the full 3 minutes. So thank you for hearing us out. It was great to be consulted in this process, to be honest. It was actually really good to see that they do care about the community. But what was disappointing actually is that 60% of us wanted to keep the park as is, to have our dogs run around and chase a ball. And that was it seems like that was ignored. So, it seemed like an overwhelming majority. I think that's just what's most outrageous about this, is that why consult us if it's going to not be considered? I know there's other parties involved in this, but I guess a few points I would like to raise is just that I know it's mentioned that there's a dog park up the road, but dog parks are not for everyone. I've got a rescue dog. She's a herding breed. She just doesn't get along well with other dogs. And it's just great to have one big space to just chase a ball. It's very innocent. Everyone else there is so respectful, both of the field and of each other. Everyone keeps to their own space, and it's a lovely community and environment. I go there, walk past there almost daily, and I've honestly never seen any kind of wrongdoings by dogs or owners that are just leaving their dogs and having a chat while they're off digging holes or whatever. So I think we would just like to be considered. We are ratepayers. We are very respectful. The dog park, it's full of germs and diseases, dog fights. It's just not the same. It's like, shutting down an athletics oval and then telling people to go to a playground. It's a very different thing. So yes, we would just like to be considered, respected. We've been so respectful of that space, and we've had so much rain and mud that I think that's probably done more damage than dogs ever would have. So yes, we just like to be heard. And if anything, we'd almost like to, it's actually more frustrating to be consulted, seeing overwhelming response in favour of keeping it as is, and then to be ignored is actually a bit of a slap in the face. So yes, please hear us out. We're all very respectful community members that would just like to keep it as is, please. And that's Mina.
Thanks very much, Katerina. Our next speaker, who is also online, is Laura Arnott of Lilyfield.
Good evening, councillors and mayor, and thank you for letting me speak tonight as well. I'm sure I'm going to echo a lot of what Katerina has just said. I've lived in Lilyfield for almost 15 years, and for the last 6, I've been a dog owner to our wonderful Labradoodle Alfie. And Alfie really relies on his daily walks, exercise and ball chasing at Blackmore Oval. It's for us, it's a safe, it's open, and it's a much loved green space for lots of local dog owners. So that really why the proposal to make it on leash just feels really unnecessary and quite unfair, to be honest. As Katharina said, you know, council's own feedback consultation last year showed only 30% supported the proposed master plan and 63% were opposed. That means an overwhelming majority didn't support it. Does that mean nothing? Are we just filling out surveys so that council can say it consulted us? Really, community consultation shouldn't be tokenistic, but should guide decisions. And like she said, we're told that the Hawthorn Canal Park is enough, but it's not really comparable. It's brilliant, don't get me wrong. We love Cafe Bones. We're often down there for a puppuccino, but it serves a different purpose and it can get pretty busy, and that doesn't suit all dogs. It also does get really, really muddy, and who wants to be washing their dog every day? Not me. I also hear that the local sporting clubs are really pushing for this change, and honestly, I find that really disappointing. I walk the Oval daily, and often we see the aftermath of the games down there. There's bottles, chip packets, rubbish left behind. Are those clubs being held to account for that? Where's the evidence that it's the dogs the problem? I mean, they play rugby there. Rugby players, you know, churn up the turf, which is completely fine. But I'd say they do it as much as the dogs do. And like she said, what I see is actually quite a small number of responsible dog owners using the Oval during the week when it would otherwise sit empty. And it's worked well for years. Dog owners already faced reduced off-leash areas when the light rail came through 10 years ago, which effectively cut the off-leash park that was there in half. So stripping weekday access at the Oval now just seems really quite unfair, given we already lost that park 10 years ago. As I'd say, you know, the suburb, we all know it's going to grow. More houses are going to get built. More families are going to move in. There's already over 40,000 dogs living in the inner west. And I think it's more important than ever to make sure that those big green spaces that we're lucky enough to have are open to all people to enjoy. So that's sports clubs, of course, but that's also families and dogs, because off-leash areas mean well-exercised dogs, and that means happier, healthier residents. So I'd just say, please listen to your community, respect the results from the consultation and reject the motion. Blackmore Oval really must remain a shared public space open to all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Laura. The last speaker for this item is Christina Valentine of Leichhardt, who's online.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Again, really appreciate having the opportunity to speak today. To be honest, we're all pretty devastated. During COVID, it was the daily catch-ups on Blackmore Oval with all the other dog owners that really got us through it. Within a 10-minute walk, we have Haberfield, Lilyfield and Leichhardt all coming together and using this fantastic green space. And I'd really like to acknowledge that we truly respect the Leichhardt Wanderers Junior Rugby League Club and the Cricket Club, and we don't want to impede their use, but we generally don't feel that we are. Most of the time, there's never more than 3 or 4 dogs down there. They're usually down in the morning early, at the end of the day. We already have a shared use arrangement. Now, I've been taking my dogs down there for 14 years, never seen an incident, not even a dog fight. I think that it's working really well, and which was why when the proposal was put to us in May last year to simply revoke the off-leash dog status, we were quite shocked. And 63% of people voted down the plan, said, we don't want this plan. And the only issue was the dogs. It's in the report. Everybody supported improved infrastructure for our really important sporting clubs, better lighting, better amenities. We're really pleased to see the council investing in our clubs and our local, sporting organisations. But to take away one user group entirely from the only oval that we have in Leichhardt, the soft leash, we can't use Lambert Park. So that's it. And again, I repeat the concerns of the others around the Canal Park not being the same sort of space. I also have a rescue. She's a big 45-kilo Bull Arab Mastiff. Her name's Karen. She's super friendly. I'm sure I've met everyone's dog who lives in the area. And when I first brought her, to be around other dogs, I'd had her for 8 months, and I took her to Blackmore Oval because it was a controlled space. It was open, and we're there every day. And it's to lose the access to a space that's going to be left vacant for 70-80% of the time. It just doesn't seem a good use of the space. And one of the things that our community is talking about, and I know that the council's talking about, is sharing the inner west, right? Bringing more people in, sharing our spaces. but at the same time, you're cutting out a user group from one of our precious green spaces. And the evidence just isn't there to justify it. I didn't just fill out a survey. I did a 10-page submission. I went down and spoke to the council officers, and they couldn't point to any incidents. They couldn't point to specific complaints. And so it was really frustrating for us because we couldn't see the rationale. Why are they taking away access to this really important green space to Haberfield, Lilyfield and Leichhardt residents? And I'd really ask you to please go away and ask the council officers to come up with a revised sharing scheme. I mean, it's just a complete
Christina, your time's concluded.
Could we look at limiting the hours, for example? But I really ask the councillors today to respect the feedback of the community and come up with a way in which we can continue to share the use of this oval.
Christina,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you for your time. The next item is item 14, Inner West Sustainability Hub, and the first speaker, the only speaker, is Kirsten Juna of Reverse Garbage. And can I begin by saying happy 50th birthday to Reverse Garbage.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I didn't think I'd be criticised by certain parties, I would get the whole council chamber to sing happy birthday.
We did that on the weekend, it's fine, but thank you for the offer. We'd have to do it with mics off if I was going to sing. Firstly, I wanted to thank the Inner West Council for their support of said 50th anniversary on the weekend. It was an amazing event. And the financial contribution meant we could create an amazing event that showcased Reverse Garbage and celebrated our wonderful Inner West community. I've seen this agenda item number 14 for the activation of the Summer Hills Sustainability Hub, and I would like to express Reverse Garbage's interest in the EOI when it is released. Reverse Garbage would also be open to being involved with activations at the hub to help promote and activate the hub prior to the release of the EOI. This could help current tenants and strengthen the vision of the circular economy and sustainability within the Inner West. Reverse Garbage looks forward to hearing more about the opportunities to be part of this exciting hub and potentially bring our 50 years of creative reuse experience to Summer Hill. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kirsten. The last item for which we have speakers is item 28, Leichhardt Park Wharf and Pontoon. The first speaker is Fiorella Gioia of Leichhardt.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. I'm here tonight to speak in strong support of preserving and maintaining the timber wharf at Leichhardt Bay. I'd like to start by addressing the report from David Patton, Engineering Services Manager, regarding item 828. Part of the report notes that there is strong sentiment within the community to retain the timber wharf for historical reasons, although its current configuration is not reflective of past configurations. With respect, that statement is inaccurate, and it highlights an ongoing lack of communication and consultation with those most affected. Unfortunately, this has been an ongoing pattern since the wharf was closed in 2022. It's also worth noting that it took over 2 years and repeated complaints from us, the stakeholders, before a marine engineering report was finally commissioned this year. And let me be clear, this is not simply about historical sentiment. The wharf's value is practical, not nostalgic. And contrary to the report, its configuration of the wharf has remained largely unchanged for over 40 years, serving the boating community safely and effectively throughout that time. Our families have been part of the Inner West for over 50 years. We know this wharf well, and it is not redundant, and it's not easily replaced by the nearby pontoon. The Timbers Wharf's height and structure make it uniquely suitable for larger, deeper draft vessels. The adjacent steel and concrete pontoon, by contrast, is too low, lacks tie-up infrastructure, and can cause hull damage in certain weather conditions. It simply cannot meet the same needs. Since the timber wharf was closed, all marine activities, boating, kayaking, fishing, etc. by the community has been forced onto the pontoon. This has created real safety risks with multiple users competing for limited space. It is not sustainable and it is not safe. I also want to challenge the idea that maintaining the timber wharf is way too costly. Council is not alone in this. The New South Wales Government offers dedicated funding through programs such as the Boating Infrastructure Fund and the Boating Now program. These exist precisely to support facilities like this. In addition, the boating community has already contributed financially. Dinghy rack fees at this site alone have generated tens of thousands of dollars since 2011. These funds should be transparently reinvested into maintaining the rack and the wharf, not absorbed into general revenue. Finally, I urge the Council to re-engage with the boating community. The lack of consultation during the pontoons planning phase has resulted in infrastructure that does not meet practical needs. Continuing to make decisions in isolation only deepens the frustration. Just quickly, in closing, I ask the Council to protect and maintain the existing timber wharf, apply for available state boating infrastructure funding, transparently reinvest existing user contributions and work constructively with local stakeholders moving forward. Thank you for your time and for listening to the voices of those of us who care deeply about this area. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Fiorella. The next speaker is Brad Greentree of Leichhardt.
Thank you, councillors, Mayor. My name is Brad Greentree. I've been living in the area in Leichhardt since 2006 and been down in the boating area since 2015. In that period of time, I've seen a high use of need for the wharf, again due to its height and its location. The situation when we have strong westerly winds using this small pontoon is going to cause harm of the infrastructure, including harm to humans trying to use that wharf. The pontoon suits perfectly well for small craft to be launched, and given the infrastructure that's built there and the fees being paid for the moorings and also for the dinghy rack, those funds should be well and truly put towards funding and maintaining the wharf. On the point of the wharf, from my understanding, New South Wales Government agreement is that Leichhardt Council is in charge of maintaining that wharf. Over the period of time of living in the area, I have seen zero maintenance done to that wharf, which has led to the deterioration of the wharf and their substantial cost. Given the fact that the council had been maintaining the wharf as per agreement and also looking for using funds that are allocated for the boating community, we would see a very, very different outcome for this situation. I believe that the wharf needs to be retained and repaired to its current state. I see and spend a lot of time down on the water. During times of football games, we see large watercraft trying to unload 20, 30 people on that pontoon. Imagine 20, 30 people with a boat that can't tie up to a pontoon that's over 15 tonne, because it can't tie up to the pontoon if it's over a certain weight, trying to unload 15 to 20 people, 30 people for a football game. Can you see how that would cause someone falling in, going under propeller and causing a damage, and what that would look like to the council in a situation where there was an incident in that scenario, let alone with high winds and infrastructure going forward? I believe that the council need to see the benefit of the community and concentrate with the community above and beyond just the boating community. We also see large weddings being filmed on the pontoon. I myself have tried to come up to the wharf to pull up to when there's 15 wedding participants on there trying to do their photo, drones flying over, photographers, and here I am trying to throw a rope over a bride. Doesn't work. It needs to have the infrastructure there for the greater community, not to mention the amount of people that spend time on that wharf taking photos of the sunset, which is one of the only places you can actually watch the sunset set over the water. Quite a beautiful place. It really sends a strong message of how we use it. Adding to the increased amount of population due to come into this area, the area the area for local community to enjoy the area needs to be increased, not decreased. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thanks very much, Brad. And the last speaker is Vania Joya of Lilyfield.
Good evening, councillors and Mayor. I am here today as a concerned boat owner and community member. Since the closure of the Leichhardt Park Wharf, which we received no warning of, boat owners have been left without a safe or suitable alternative to berth larger vessels over 8 metres. Instead, we were expected to use the pontoon, which was constructed in 2008 with no input from the stakeholders and without a clear thought process if the intention was to never repair and maintain the timber wharf. The existing pontoon simply does not meet the needs. This isn't just a matter of inconvenience, it's a gap in infrastructure that affects safety, access and the local boating community's ability to operate responsibly. We continue to pay high mooring fees and unrealistic dinghy rack fees, and yet we are unable to access the infrastructure we need to operate a boat. Together with larger boat owners, we are not able to use the current pontoon for various reasons. They've already stated most, but I'll reiterate. The pontoon does not have the poles or bollards which assist larger boats to tie up. The pontoon is too low and made of steel and concrete, hence when there is nothing to help guide the boat for safe berthing, will result in the bottom of the boat hitting and causing damage to the boat, especially when there is high westerly winds. The pontoon does not have different height levels to accommodate for different boat heights, making difficult to embark and disembark without the risk of falling. The pontoon water level is 1.5, while the larger vessels have draft over 1.5 metres. Simply relocating the current pontoon to replace the timber wharf will not resolve all the issues. It is disappointing that the council did not maintain and repair the existing timber wharf, a wharf which has serviced and accommodated all boats, including the fishing fleet of Leichhardt, without any problems. Since COVID-19, the bay has become very popular for many activities, which on the weekend the pontoon is overcrowded, as they have mentioned. When the pontoon was built, the boat owners were advised that the wharf would remain operational and work side by side. We have currently collected approximately 720 signatures, and we continue to receive more opposing the closure of Leichhardt Wharf, which reinforces its value and importance to the community. We started this communication process 3 years ago, and we urgently need a working solution. The preferred option is to retain the existing timber wharf. However, whether it's upgrading the current wharf or identifying a new site for a wharf, all the points mentioned need to be addressed. I ask the council as a matter of urgency to prioritise this issue and ensure collaboration with boat owners to find a practical and long-term fix to this problem. Thank you for listening.
Thanks very much, Vania. That concludes the public forum. Now, the proceedings are broadcast live on YouTube and recorded there for posterity, including all the proceedings tonight. We're going to move on to the agenda. I can't promise you that the items will be dealt with sequentially as they appear on the agenda, as there's discussions between councillors throughout the day about certain items, about which items will be moved on block and which will be discussed. So you're more than welcome to stick around, but we can't promise you that the item will be dealt with as it appears in the order in which it appears on the agenda at the moment. So that brings us, there being no condolence motions or mayoral minutes, that brings us to item 1, the election of the Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, Mayor, can I please move a procedural motion before we begin?
Yes.
Can I please move a procedural motion to move a number of items on Globo?
I think we'll need to deal with the election of the Deputy Mayor first. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll now deal with item 1, the election of the Deputy Mayor, and I'll hand over to the General Manager to conduct the election.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first decision to be made is whether council will elect a deputy mayor, and if so, the length of the term for the deputy mayor. The officer recommendation is the term is traditionally a year. Council needs to decide the method of voting to be used, and if there's more than one nomination for the position of deputy mayor. Traditionally, council conducts the elections for deputy mayor by show of hands. The proposed motion, you put that on the screen, Catherine. The proposed motion is on the screen there, that we elect a deputy mayor for the term commencing the 23rd of September 25 until September 26, and the method of voting for the election of deputy mayor be conducted by show of hands.
I'll move that way.
And Councillor Byrne, do I have a seconder? Councillor Howard. So I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And all those against, I declare that unanimous. Thank you. Okay, the nominations. Thank you, councillors. So the nomination, the order, I have received them. I have nominations for the position of Deputy Mayor for Councillor Barlow and Councillor Smith. Are there any further nominations? Okay. With those councillors voting for Councillor Barlow, please raise your hand. That's Councillor Blake, Councillor Atkins and Councillor Barlow. That's 3 votes. And with those councillors voting for Councillor Smith, please raise your hand. Councillor Rosidi, Macri, Smith, Ferguson, Howard, Clay, Scott, Carlisle, Lorenzo and Byrne. So that is, I'll get my maths right, 10. So I declare that's 10 votes. So I declare that Councillor Smith elected as Deputy Mayor for the Inner West Council until September 26. Congratulations, Deputy Mayor Smith. I'll now hand back to the Mayor.
Thanks very much, General Manager. I would like to just take a few moments to both congratulate Councillor Smith on her election and also to thank the outgoing Deputy Mayor, Councillor Howard, for his contribution. I really want to sincerely thank Matt for the contribution that he's made across the last year, which I think every single person in this room, both the staff and certainly all of the Labor councillors, but I think all of the councillors from all parties and groups would attest has been meaningful, committed, passionate, considerate, and always with an eye to the interests of the people of the Inner West. Matt is a great public servant, he's a great colleague, he's a collegiate person, and the contribution that he's made not just to policy development, but to the overall culture within our organisation, not just across this past year, but particularly in this past year as Deputy Mayor, has been absolutely first class. We're lucky to have him in this chamber. He's someone who is in politics for all of the right reasons. I'm personally very grateful for the way that he has supported me and all of our colleagues throughout this 12 months. He's done an amazing job. And of course, that follows on from the way that he's conducted himself across the entirety of his 5 years in public office, which is to have upheld those principles of commitment to public service every single day that he has been in the job. So, Councillor Howard, on behalf of myself and of all of the elected representatives, I want to say thank you very much for your service to the Inner West. I also want to say congratulations to Councillor Smith, who has served in this role previously in a very effective and distinguished way, as demonstrated by the result at the last general election, which occurred during her term as Deputy Mayor. And I will hand over to Councillor Smith and then Councillor Howard to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I'm conscious that we've got a very long agenda ahead of us, so I'll try and keep it brief. I do just want to begin by acknowledging we're in Gadigal and Wangal country tonight, and personally pay my respects to elders, to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us this evening, and note that it remains one of my proudest moments as a representative on this council to have supported the mass mobilisation of Inner West citizens in support of the Yes referendum, which we know delivered the second highest Yes vote in the country. I also need to begin by echoing you, Mayor. I need to acknowledge and thank our outgoing Deputy Mayor, Matt Howard. Councillor Howard exemplifies everything that is best about our community. He is warm, he is inclusive, quirky, artistic, passionate about active transport and recycling, and constantly striving to support those around him and help make the Inner West a better place. And my first and second terms as Deputy Mayor will always have the distinction of bookmarking the Deputy Mayor Howard era. But truthfully, Matt is an impossible act to follow. So thank you, Matt, for your service to our council and our community. I also want to acknowledge my fellow Labor councillors for their ongoing support tonight and always. There is truly no better team nor group of people to serve with. And I think we must surely be unprecedented in the history of local government as a group of councillors that not only work together, but genuinely and voluntarily enjoy spending time with each other outside of the chamber as well. So thank you, comrades. And I do have to particularly single out our mayor. We couldn't ask for a better champion of the Inner West than Darcy Byrne. We are very fortunate to have you leading us. And to all my fellow councillors across the chamber, thank you for your service and dedication to the community as well. And thank you, Councillor Barlow, for nominating tonight as well. We know this isn't an easy job that we all do. Oftentimes it's a job that we take on after your day job, your family, your caring, your other myriad responsibilities are done or at least abated. But I believe that each of us is here because of a genuine love for the Inner West and a shared desire to make it better. We sometimes disagree on how to do that, but the motivation is shared. And I really hope that the civil, respectful and cooperative tone that we've managed to achieve so far into this term continues. Thank you also to all of our council staff who keep the council running day to day. I promise you that the work that you all do to support the elected officials and our community does not go unnoticed by us. And a thank you to my partner and my family as well, without whom I wouldn't be here. It truly is an honour to be elected as Deputy Mayor tonight. It's a real privilege to be able to do it for a second time, and I acknowledge it's a privilege that not many get once, let alone twice, so I do feel incredibly privileged. As a lifelong inner Westie, I know some might consider it parochial that I've lived in the same 35 square kilometre LGA my entire life, and in my case it's more like 10 square kilometres because I haven't yet lived above Parramatta Road, but never say never. But we inner Westies know the multitudes that are contained within those 35 square kilometres of multicultural communities, from the first Australians to our newest citizens, some of the best arts and music in the country, a passion for politics and history, world-class food and hospitality, unrivalled public transport, and areas of beautiful natural environment. And above all, a collective attitude that says everyone is welcome here and everyone gets to make a contribution. We all get to represent one of the most engaged, progressive and vibrant communities anywhere in the country. It's why we all love the Inner West, and it's why our council should aspire to be the same. Not just preserving what's there, but building on it, sharing what we have, and working to ensure our community is inclusive and enjoyable for everyone. I'm really looking forward to working with all of you as your Deputy Mayor over the next 12 months to do just that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Howard.
Just very quickly wanted to thank yourself, Mayor Byrne. Thank you to all my colleagues, both on this side and the other side of the chamber. I really, really enjoy working with all of you. I want to thank my family. Looking forward to seeing a lot more of you. Thank you to the community who have really just continued to give so much. I'm so proud of Inner West Council. I'm so proud of our community. And being the Deputy Mayor for the last year has been a true honour. I didn't get into politics to be the Mayor or Deputy Mayor, but doing it has made me learn more and helped me give more. And I'm really grateful for all of those opportunities and look forward to continuing to do so as the Councillor for Marrickville Midgebury. And I want to congratulate Chloe. I am but a blip in the Chloe Smith era, and I am very proud of that. And I am exceptionally proud to support exceptional women, but also exceptionally talented people. And your intelligence and your passion and your drive just make you a phenomenal representative, and it's going to be a great year. So congratulations and thank you to everyone.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. Okay, now would you like to move your procedure?
I would love to do that. I have a procedural motion to move a number of items on Globo, please.
Okay, they've now been provided to the minute taker and listed on the screen. Now, all councillors have been consulted on this list, so I presume I'll just ask councillors to confirm that there's nothing of the items listed on the screen that they would like to knock out because they wish it to be debated. No, they don't need to be read out. So is there a seconder for the procedural motion? That's seconded by Councillor Atkins. So I'll put that, all those in favour, against, declare that carried. That brings us to item 2, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Community Hub. Councillor
Mr.
Carla.
Mayor,
Can I ask the minute takers to provide me with an updated list, please? Councillor Carla.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation with some amendments, and I provided those amendments to staff. If they can be put on the screen, thank you. Our council is committed to establishing a dedicated hub for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. This is a cornerstone commitment in our Reconciliation Action Plan. This vision represents more than just a building. It's about creating a culturally appropriate space where our community can gather, connect and access vital services. This has been our shared aspiration for far too long. Council has previously considered reports about locating the club on the former Jet site at Tempe. Advice to the December 24 meeting was that the cost of refurbishing the building would be between $5 million and $8 million. Following this advice, officers were asked to look at options of building a new facility as well as other locations to serve as a temporary or permanent home for the hub. Advice in this report is that the cost of a new facility on the Jet site would be in excess of $8 million. These costs are well in excess of our allocated budget of $1.5 million. Council officers have identified 2 promising alternatives, Camperdown Park and the Jimmy Little Community Centre in Lilyfield. Crucially, members of Council's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Local Democracy Group inspected both locations. I'm advised that the group determined that the Australia Street Camperdown Park location is ideal. They cited its spacious layout, outdoor cultural potential, excellent connectivity and proximity to local amenities and cultural facilities. The Camperdown Park building offers everything we need. It's vacant, structurally sound and requires only minor remedial works. The setting is culturally respectful with excellent public transport links. The adjacent Damon inclusive playground, nearby recreation facilities, Chrissy Cotter Gallery and Camperdown Commons create an exceptional opportunities for integrated cultural, community and intergenerational program. The vision and purpose that we envisaged and embraced for the Tempe site can be realised at the Camperdown location. Most importantly, we can deliver this project within our budget using existing capital funds. My amendments asked for, I have one sentence to go, construction to be completed by June 27 and that where possible we engage businesses, suppliers and products by Aboriginal providers, sorry I've cut the sentence, in the delivery of the hub. Let's make this happen.
Thanks very much, Councillor Carlisle. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Scott. You wish to speak to it? Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it? Councillor Barlow?
I have questions as well
Yes.
as some amendments, if I may. Through you, Chair, has Council explored any alternative options for use for the former Tempe Jets Club building?
Put that question to the officers.
An extensive investigation was done to consider the feasibility of retaining the building at all. And through those investigations, it was deemed that it was at a significant price to amend, to refurbish, to renew, to rebuild the building. And it was no longer suitable to be in place and holds an issue and risk that needs to be attended to.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, this report back to Council was requested to occur no later than March 2025. Can you explain the delay?
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through you, Chair, a very long time to consider it. And we wanted to take our time to make sure that we got the right outcome.
Thank you for that.
Final question through you, Chair, is just looking at the concept design and site plan that was reported to Council in December. It included a number of rooms that had been scoped for program delivery, as well as a significant landscaping footprint. While I appreciate that obviously at this stage in the consideration of this site, staff wouldn't have had the chance to redevelop a new concept designs, can you indicate to what extent this site recommended is large enough and the budget spend recommended in this report that will allow for the initial inclusion brought to Council in December?
We are confident that the budget that's been put forward here will create a fit for purpose hub that Inner Westies can be proud of.
Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Macri?
Just a question, Chair, through the staff, through you. Just the allotment for the demolition of the Jets Club, $500,000. Is that being tested or that's just an allowance?
Put that question to the officers.
Through you, Chair, there has been an independent quantity surveyor who has determined that this is the price based upon some of the contamination and the structure in general. So that price is directly responding to the needs to demolish it, and it's substantial.
Councillor Macri? All good?
Just have a
Councillor
question and just a brief comment to make. If I could ask through you, Chair, what are the plans for the land upon which the current Tempe Jets Club is located? What is the process from here to there?
I'll put that question to the officers.
Through you, Chair, the plan of management calls for the area to be considered for tennis courts. So council will embark on the planning aspects of it now that the demolition of the site, and we'll consider that in future budget planning exercises.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make a very quick comment, if I may, which is to really express, again, excitement about this project. This, I really believe, is going to be one of the most important things that we do on this term of council. We are seeing in real time the benefit that we are gaining from the Inner West Pride Centre, and following the same rationale, providing and working with our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander advisory group to deliver this project will deliver that same capacity building and that same sense of empowerment and self-determination that we know comes from having spaces where communities who are marginalised and don't always have safe spaces to gather and organise, this will help provide that. I want to thank and acknowledge the advisory group. I know these are really detailed and challenging conversations, and we really do value the guidance that they bring to this process. I think it is so important that we follow their leadership here. I did just want to acknowledge that there is a sense of loss for people in Tempe. You know, there was a sense that this project was coming to Tempe and a lot of excitement about that. And I do, you know, it's with a really heavy heart that I do accept that this is not the right location for that for this project. It is also an institution that we're going to be knocking down, something that has really mattered for people in Tempe for a long time. And generations of Tempeites have had wonderful nights and days, and probably all of those things together over many, many, many days at the club. So I'm really grateful to Councillor Carlisle for working on some of these amendments with me. Just we'll make sure that we are communicating effectively with the people of Tempe about what is happening there, including that we are looking at creating new community space as part of the Robin Webster Indoor Centre. I think that will be a really valuable proposal that we're working through, but the community will really value having that conversation. But onwards and upwards, the most important thing here is this great project is moving step by step forward.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. There's no further discussion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Barlow.
I have some amendments that I've provided to staff ahead of time. I'll just speak to them briefly. I am moving these amendments because I am concerned about the lack of transparency and lack of progress reports from staff on the development of the hub thus far. And I want to make sure that we are ensuring that the original vision hasn't been lost and that we recommit ourselves to completing this work as a priority. I note that the creation of this hub is one of the significant commitments that we made in our Reconciliation Action Plan, but also that a significant amount of work has already gone into it. We've worked alongside First Nations community at multiple meetings. We've worked with the local Aboriginal architect, Mari Reddy, to develop a plan. And whilst I acknowledge the unanimous endorsement by the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Committee of the Camperdown site, as I was president at the meeting, I think it's important to add additional context missing from this report. Of the two sites that were offered for inspection, the Camperdown site was considered larger and more connected to community, absolutely. The 7 other venues identified in the report and shortlisted were not presented or reviewed by the committee, nor was any conceptual site for a new purpose-built community, which again I note was the original direction of council. Alongside the meeting's endorsement were significant concerns that this new site could not cater for the original vision for the hub and the community programs they were excited to deliver there. For example, the concern that the kitchenette on site will not be large enough to provide for the nutritional cooking programs envisioned to be offered on site to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It's with those concerns in mind that I'm proposing these amendments. I want to note also that the motion passed by Council in December 2024 pertaining to the site asks that Council officers report back by March with options for potential funding sources and procurement strategies. I'm concerned that the report we received back included potential funding sources only for the alternative locations, rather than how we could fund the initial scoping exercise for the building. Whilst I appreciate the potential costs for the original site are well outside the original proposed budget, it was a direction given that we look at additional funding sources to complete it, and I'm disappointed that this was not done. Finally, I note that the Council requested quarterly progress reports of progress towards establishing the community hub. I just need 30 seconds.
Please proceed.
When we passed the Reconciliation Action Plan in 2022, however, the last report the Council received on progress towards this site was in February. Again, this is a priority that we're all committed to, that we're really excited to deliver, but I think keeping the community that we've worked with this on thus far well informed to the process is, in my mind, an important part of that.
Okay, I'm going to go to the mover of the primary motion to ask whether some or all of those points would be incorporated into the primary motion.
I'm happy to incorporate them into the primary motion.
Okay, that's done. They're incorporated. I'll go to the move of the motion for right of reply.
Waive my right.
That's waived. I'll put the I'll just ask that the amended motion be displayed on the screen. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, declare that carried unanimously. It brings us to item 3, local traffic committee
Chair,
meetings. Yes.
I'll move this item with an amendment that's been provided in regard to item 12 of the minutes of 21 July. Thank you. Firstly, I want to thank the residents who spoke on this item at the public forum at the last meeting in August. and those who made representations to me and to Councillor Clay and Councillor Atkins and spoke to this item at the Traffic Committee meeting as well. And I acknowledge that while many residents have indicated in principle support for trialling road closures and the benefits that they can bring, genuine concerns have also been expressed around increased traffic in surrounding streets as a result, particularly in the case of the full closure of London Street. The safety and amenity of our neighbourhood streets is deeply important and front of mind to all of us, and so I acknowledge the importance of that feedback. And I also thank the council staff who have worked to develop and amend this proposal since it first came to council last year. At that time, in response to resident concerns, I moved to defer adoption of the trial so that a traffic management plan could be delivered and approved by both council and Transport for New South Wales. I'm pleased that this amended plan has now been developed and does include both detailed modelling of potential changes to traffic and outlines actions to mitigate its impacts, including additional signage and line markings. But it is clear from the report that road closures will inevitably change traffic movements and that this will change how vehicles navigate surrounding streets. I want to reiterate that this is a trial. It's a 6-month trial. We know that road closures can deliver significant benefits to communities through expanded pedestrianisation, making our suburbs more walkable, discouraging car through traffic and supporting local placemaking. I believe it is absolutely worth trialling this approach, particularly in the Enmore Road precinct, which is such a hub for pedestrians, with markets, arts, cultural events, etc. But it's important we work with the community so that pedestrians and vehicles can navigate these changes safely and so that these road closures are seen to enhance our community rather than detract. So the amendments that I am proposing, which I understand Councillor Clay and Councillor Atkins support, is that we just add some additional traffic calming devices. Just ask for a brief extension of time.
Moved by Councillor Howard, seconded by Councillor Scott. All those in favour, against, declare that carried.
Thank you. Additional temporary traffic calming devices, additional line marking, variable message signs, as well as selected treatments implemented in conjunction with the temporary road closures following a period of community engagement. That in addition to advisory signs on Liberty Street, that council also install or renew line markings and signage related to keep clear and no parking zones. That council put in a request to Transport to expedite approval for the implementation of streets impacted, which are bounded by Liberty Street, Stanmore Road, Enmore Road and the rail line by commencement of the trial period. That the ongoing local area traffic management study precinct consider the impact of the London Street road closure. The council write to all impacted households within 400 metres of the trial closure locations to advise them of these actions, and that council provide extra rubbish bins near the corners of Enmore Road, London and Symonds Street. Once again, I just want to thank residents and staff for engaging in this process. I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of this trial and continuing to work with our community to improve amenity and safety on our streets. Thank you.
So, Councillor, the Deputy Mayor is moving the adoption of the minutes of both of the listed meetings, the 16th of June and the 21st of July, with an amendment to item 12 for the minutes of the 21st of July. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Atkins. Do you wish to speak to it?
Only very briefly to just emphasise how important these amendments are and particularly draw attention to the request that Transport for New South Wales expedite approval for the implementation of Inner West at 40 in these particular streets. That will go a long way to satisfying the residents that we have taken account of what they've had to say and to help them through the trial period.
Thanks very much, Councillor Atkins. There being no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. That brings us to item 4, post-exhibition draft media and social media policy.
Yep.
Yes.
Happy to move the officer's recommendations.
Yep.
I'll just speak ever so briefly to this, just to acknowledge the staff's work and to thank them for their work in reviewing and consolidating these policies. I think it's made an even clearer and more practical guide for councillors. I also want to thank everyone who provided feedback during the public exhibition period. These things might seem quite dry, and I'm always a little surprised when community members want to speak to these things which about the operation of council, but they are really important and the feedback is really important. So your points about respectful online engagement, balancing digital and printed communications and monitoring social media have all been carefully considered, and we thank you for them. I think that the input has helped strengthen the policy. Look, clear guidelines around media and social media are vital. They help us to communicate responsibly, to maintain transparency, and to keep the community's trust. I'm pleased that the policy provisions are largely working well, giving us a solid foundation for ongoing engagement. So thanks again to staff and the community for those contributions.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Scott. Do you wish to speak to it? Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the motion or to amend it? Councillor Atkins?
Yes, please. I have some amendments which will be familiar to all of you, which I have already given to the minute takers. They are amendments which I have moved before. They are amendments which are intended to reflect the fact that we do not see what the Deputy Mayor, last time we considered this item, referred to as an appropriate balance, because in the way that it's currently drafted. My colleagues in the Greens do not think there's a balance. The Inner West News regularly features Labor councillors with Labor MPs on the front cover, as do council's social media posts. The only photos other councillors appear in are generally the large group photos which are taken at events. There are times when we're lucky if we're even told events are on. There were 2 this weekend where councillors other than certain councillors did not know via council appointments that there was something on. And residents notice this. Residents tell me all the time that they do not see us in the Inner West News and in social media. And it's not just the Greens. We don't see Councillor Macri or Councillor Rossetti in much of anything either. Even as an example, the photo of the Pride Hub, the photo that was in the Inner West News was the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and the member for Summerhill. And that would have been a lovely occasion to actually have an inclusive photo. I don't expect this amendment to get up, but the point needs to be made. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Atkins. So we're considering the amendment from Councillor Atkins. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Blake. Do you wish to speak to it? That's waived. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the amendment before we vote on it?
I would like to say that I'm not going to incorporate the amendment and just to speak briefly to it. And I do appreciate the points that Councillor Atkins has raised, but the balance that is being sought to be struck is the balance between the statutory obligation of the Mayor to be the spokesperson of the council and then the flexibility we have given, as we as a council have afforded here, to allow for other councillors to be involved in the process around how media is coordinated. Now, when we moved towards that, it was acknowledged by councillors who had served on the former council that had never occurred before, that there had not been a sharing of that opportunity. So the balance is that I'm speaking about in this policy is the balance between the requirement of the Mayor to be the spokesperson and for all of us to be able to be involved.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. I'll now put the Atkins-Blake amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? That has been defeated, 10 votes to 3. We'll return to the primary motion. Is there any further amendment to the primary motion? There not being any further amendment, I'll go to the mover for a right of reply.
Waive that right.
That's waived. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried, 10 votes to 3. That brings us to item 5, Financially Sustainable Service Delivery Program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I move the motion, I've been trying to think about what is the most respectful way to do this, and it's in a meeting where we're all very chilled and everything's going really well, but sometimes when other councillors are speaking to each other while business is being conducted, it's extremely hard to hear. And sometimes while people are making speeches, it comes off, if not intentional, as disrespectful. And I hope that we might all be able to curtail our side chatter while the business of the council is being conducted. I hope that's okay with you to say that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And with that, I would like to move item 5 with some recommendations that I've been provided to the minute taker already. Our council is doing very well. We are financially sustainable. We continue to project a surplus in coming years, and we've done that without a rate rise, which we all committed to and which we're all very proud of. But every organisation needs a bit of scrutiny now and then, and I think that while we absolutely commend and appreciate the work of all the staff, we can all probably agree that there are areas of the business where we could do better. Areas where there's a process step that's now redundant, a middle person, we could cut out a consulting contract we possibly don't need. So we're asking the General Manager to cast his eye over the organisation and suggest areas where we could deliver more for our ratepayers. And in doing so, we should make it clear that our frontline services, particularly in children's services and our valued pools and libraries and our maintenance teams who deliver the excellent work in our parks and streetscapes, should not form part of that review. So I am recommending that we amend this report from the council officers, that we do deliver that program of scrutiny, but that we do it in a way such that the service levels of the frontline services that we really value are absolutely maintained.
Thanks very much, Councillor Scott. I'd like to second your motion and also speak briefly to it. I want to thank the Director of Corporate Services for what is, I think, a very well-written report and recommendation, and also to the General Manager for the work that he's been undertaking on this. Also to Chris Sleeman, the Chief Financial Officer, who's not in attendance tonight, but whose very diligent work over recent months and years has been a primary contributor to the strong financial position that the council is in now. But it is also very important that we not rest on our laurels. And we know that there will be unforeseen events and incurred costs that will arise. That happens every year through cost shifting or something unexpected happening. And we need to be in an even stronger financial position to ensure that we are looking after ratepayers' money regardless of what might occur. I want to encourage the General Manager and the Director of Corporate Services to take this work seriously and to ensure that all of the responsible directors are looking closely at their service units to identify where these savings can be found and to ensure that we're achieving value for money for ratepayers in relation to council services. So thank you very much for the report. Okay, great. I was just going to ask where that final point was. I do think that that leaving it without public reportage until February next year is too long a period of time. So I also agree with the amendment to have an update brought to the December meeting of 2025. I would like to respectfully request of all directors that this work is taken seriously and advanced quickly between now and when the December report is drafted. Thanks very much. Is there any amendment to the motion or anyone who wishes to speak against it? Councillor Barlow?
Just have a few questions of staff through you, Chair. Could you provide an idea of the average turnover rate for employee positions within the council since amalgamation?
I'll put that question to the General Manager or the appropriate director.
I'd have to take that on notice. The staff turnover, if you're talking about turnover, staff turnover, it's reduced in the last couple of years. It's in the right directory, but I couldn't quote it off the top of my head.
That's taken on notice.
Could you take that on notice? Could you also, and you may well need to take this on notice as well, provide a figure for the amount of any redundancies provided since amalgamation?
I'd have to take that on notice.
No worries. And could you provide an update on how many employee vacancies are within the council currently?
Yeah, have to take that on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Atkins?
I just had a question about the nature of the review. It's described as an internal review. Is it intended that it be completely internal and conducted by staff or in some other way?
Yes, conducted.
I'll put that question to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Conducted by staff, the directors, myself having conversations as they've reviewed it with each service unit owner. This is separate to our requirement to do service reviews of individual service units, which we commit to doing 3 a year. This is a separate one where we'll just cover off the whole organisation.
Thank you for that. There's no further discussion. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. That brings us to item 6, Blackmore Park Plan of Management.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I will move the officer's recommendation with an amendment that I've provided to the minute taker and which should be displayed on the screen. Please. Thanks very much. This is an excellent plan of management that supports the future use of the Oval by the Leichhardt Wanderers Rugby League and Cricket Club, one of Australia's oldest junior rugby league clubs, having been in existence and playing in Leichhardt since 1911. The council has expressed our support for the club when we opened their new mural last year, celebrating the long history of the club immortalised in the mural Friends for Life. Now, we didn't get Luke Brooks or Robbie Farah down there for that event from the Wanderers alumni, but hopefully we can when we celebrate some of the upgrades contained in this plan. And those include the development of new female-friendly amenities in the former men's shed, which has been relocated to Callan Park, upgraded public entrances from the north and the south on Canal Road, including new paths and lighting to support safe public access and use of the park gym, the sports fields and the cricket nets. Separately, the council is upgrading those cricket nets and remarking the surfaces in time for the upcoming summer season, and I can't wait to get down to the Wanderers' launch of that season on Friday night. The plan also recommends significant remedial work to the damaged SES building, damage which was sustained as a result of WestConnex tunnelling, damage that our community warned against and fought against and has a chance to embrace remediation of now. There is one area where we could do more to enhance work, and that is with the reversion of the Oval from off-leash to on-leash dog park. Improved directional signage to the adjacent off-leash dog park is a good idea, and a review of the maintenance and the amenities in the off-leash dog park should also take place. We should, while we're directing people down there, take a look at the fencing, the grass maintenance, the cafe amenities, the shared path signage and the road markings from the Oval to that dog park, to make it clear that this is a big, safe, open space to take your dog off leash. And I have asked the staff to brief councillors on what can be done there, and they have agreed. And so I've provided 2 amendments to that effect, which are before you, and I commend that and the plan of management to the council.
Thanks very much, Councillor Scott. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Carlisle. Do you wish to speak to it? That's waived. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it? Councillor Blake.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, despite the excellent work the staff has done in preparing this plan of management for Blackmore Oval, we're unable to support this motion tonight. While I acknowledge all the great things about the Leichhardt Wanderers and Cricket Club that Councillor Scott pointed out, and we think these will be great benefits to the community, the change of use for the playing field is of concern at us, and the failure to find an adequate solution to off-leash dog walkers there. We feel that there could have been more done to provide alternatives here, considering that the overwhelming feedback for the engagement process for this plan of management was that 60% of residents did not want to see a change into the use of these fields. So it's for that reason that we are unable to support this tonight.
Okay. Thank you for that. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? That has been carried 9 votes to 3. Next item is item 7, Code of Meeting Practice.
Mayor?
Councillor Howard?
If I could please move the officer's recommendation with an amendment that I have circulated previously. For those playing at home, the Office of Local Government has released a new model code of meeting practice, which will impact the proceedings of council meetings. While I personally do not agree with many of the mandatory provisions that are outlined in the code, I do note that the world is bigger than Inner West Council, and that while we might get it right a lot of the time in this chamber, there may be problems in other councils, and that the view of the Office of Local Government is that there may be other that those reforms might have a broader context. I also just note that the stated intention of these reforms is to improve transparency around the decision making at councils. And look, many of these provisions are mandatory, and we will see how they go. I'm also comfortable, it should say, that where non-mandatory provisions have been reformed as part of this report, that council staff have endeavoured to stick to our currently prescribed practice as best as possible, and I do want to thank the governance team for their work. This has been complicated, and I really appreciate the work of all the staff in that unit. The new model code, though, does omit any discussion of how foreshadowed motions are to occur. And accordingly, I'm moving some amendments. And really what those amendments do is just take the current provisions around foreshadowed motions and insert them into the model code. And I note that this is just going out on public exhibition, and I invite the community to offer varied and detailed feedback on this exhibition.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor Howard. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Atkins. Do you wish to speak to it? No, that's waived. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 10, update on Inner West e-bike strategy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move to defer this report. The report touches on multiple council resolutions, therefore more time is required to work through.
When would you like to defer it to, Councillor?
To the next meeting, please, the October meeting.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I'll just ask the minute takers to capture that primary motion. Any discussion of that? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 11, Princess Highway between Cooks River and Railway Road. Councillor Barlow.
I'd like to move the motion with amendments, which I have provided. Thank you. I'm just particularly concerned that this report has engaged very little with the overwhelming 87% of respondents that asked for council to improve pedestrian and active transport infrastructure in this area. Certainly these were the issues discussed in some of the greatest detail at the roundtable that I attended. I appreciate that this is a state road and managed by Transport for New South Wales, so council is somewhat limited in its options, but it's very clear that residents in this area expect us to do better than repairing footpaths. I'd like to propose the following amendment, simply to ensure that we can look at other opportunities that perhaps lie outside of council to ensure that we're providing what residents have asked us to provide.
If I can please second the report.
So is that wording been provided to the minute takers?
Yeah, it's on screen.
Okay, that's the amended wording. Okay, thank you for that. Is there any discussion?
Yes, please. I just have some further amendments too, so I'd like to move. I provided to the note takers earlier. I think it's clear that the community around Tempe and Sydenham have spoken loud and clear. The Princess Highway needs to be safer, greener and more inviting. We all know this is a tough corridor. It's a state road. It's busy, it's constrained, but that's exactly why it matters that council steps up and does what we can. The plan gives us a pathway, new trees, safer footpaths, clearer signage, better connections for walking and cycling. And with my amendments, we're making sure that safety critical footpath issues are fixed as a priority, not years down the track. We're also building in accountability, quarterly updates to councillors, clear reporting on how many trees are actually going in, and strong communication back to residents and businesses once the design work is complete. People deserve to know what's happening on their street, and writing to residents who've engaged with this process is really important. This isn't the end of the job, but it's a good start. Tonight we're showing that even on a challenging stretch like the Princess Highway, we can make a cleaner, safer, greener and more connected roads through our suburbs.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. Is that incorporated, Councillor Barlow?
We'll incorporate those.
Incorporated into the primary motion. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 12, supply of waste collection vehicles.
Yeah, I'd like to move the officer's recommendations, please. And
Councillor Howard? Yep.
Yeah, I just have some questions and a short comments, if that's okay. If I could ask some questions.
Yes, of course.
So just through you to the staff, could the staff please outline the procurement process that's proposed here, including the rationale of procuring this number of vehicles in one go and the benefits of this approach?
I'll put that question to the officers.
Thank you, through the Mayor. The council would procure all 18 trucks in one go. We use our local government procurement panel, which is a panel whereby all vehicles, not just waste collection, but any time council requires a vehicle, we go to this panel. There are already rates in there that are offered for government only, that provide a good rate that we can quickly consider the various different suppliers before confirming our preferred supplier. It is a competitive arrangement for all suppliers that are on the panel, and there are quite a number of them there. All the well-known brands that we would look towards are on that panel, and so we would utilise that panel for the purpose. We do get benefits from purchasing in bulk, and it is opportune that we purchase all these vehicles in the one time. Some of the vehicles in our fleet are actually beyond their service life, and we've kept them operating because we had the new Fargo service coming in, and we really wanted to be sure about the number of vehicles we would require ongoing. But it is time, it's very much necessary that those vehicles be replaced, and we have some more, and the remaining number within the 18 coming up for renewal next year. We need to order these trucks up to 18 months to 2 years in advance before they'll be ready and in service. So we really do need to proceed with haste with the procurement of these vehicles, but it is good that we can leverage off the number that we are buying to get the best value.
Thank you. I just have a second question, if I may, just through you, Chair, to either the Manager of Resource Recovery and Fleet Services or to the Director. Could you just explain what some of the constraints are currently around electric vehicles, or like electric waste collection vehicles, and what kind of research and work we've done in this space?
Put that question to the Director.
Through you, Chair. We have done we've looked at our neighbouring councils for various trials that have been done for waste collection vehicles in the electric space. Unfortunately, the constraints are that with the technology the battery technology isn't quite there to withhold the level of kilometres we have to do for servicing of the collection, as well as getting to the waste collection disposal point, back again, and charge in time for our second shift. So it's more of a technological barrier at the moment. We've looked at our neighbour Canterbury Bankstown, who had purchased some electric vehicles in the garbage compactor space and are unable to use them at this time.
Thanks so much. Mayor, if I could just make a few comments, if that's okay.
Of course.
Look, I'm pleased to move the officer's recommendations in this regard. Look, replacing our waste collection vehicles isn't just about keeping the fleet safe and reliable, although that's very important. It's also about smart economics and sustainability. By renewing the vehicles on schedule, we're reducing costly breakdowns, we're minimising maintenance expenses, and we're ensuring consistent, high-quality waste services for our community. And that's something that I think we all care about. From an environmental perspective, the new fleet will meet the Euro 6 standard. That's global best practice for minimising vehicle emissions. And tenderers are encouraged, I think this is important, tenderers are still being encouraged to propose electric-powered waste collection vehicles where they might meet those service requirements. And so there is that flexibility there. We are live to the market responding here. This is an important step towards cleaner air and more sustainable streets. There's also some strong occupational health and safety benefits, step through cab designs, advanced camera systems, and vehicles suited to our narrow streets will reduce the risk for our staff in the community. I also just note that with procurement being through local government procurement, we know the process delivers value for money and strong oversight. So this is a responsible decision, I'm assured of that. And it supports both an ecologically sustainable Inner West and a safe, efficient waste service for the future. And I thank the staff for their work.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor Howard. Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some questions through you, Chair.
So I'll just check first of all that there's a seconder for the motion, otherwise it would lapse.
I'm happy
to second it.
Yes.
Great.
Through you, Chair. Can probably the General Manager explain the rationale for the delegation of authority toward the attender on this one? This seems to be substantially higher than previous delegations.
I'll put that question to the General Manager.
It's not a project that can have a variation of scope. there's you know what you're getting. It's just a multiplier effect. By doing it of such scale, it gives us to do now to move quickly and also get the economies to scale.
Follow-up question: is there any if authority wasn't delegated to the general manager, and council retained the right to approve the tender, as we often do, would that significantly slow down the process at all, or alter the process?
I'll put that question to the relevant director.
Yes, through the chair. Look, it's likely to slow the process by approximately 2 months. It's 2 months that we could have the newer fleet on the road for.
Finally, my very scientific and very, very thorough research suggests that the $10 million is a lot of money for waste collection vehicles. Obviously, we're the Inner West, and so we need the best we can possibly do. But is that an appropriate amount to service our needs?
Put that question to the council officers.
Through the chair, the amount of funding required is in keeping with what other councils would pay for waste collection vehicles. It is a market rate. It is a market tested rate that we are paying for the vehicles. There is additional equipment. It is not just a plain truck. There are a lot of additional pieces of equipment that are added to these vehicles to ensure we meet organisational policy. That can be anything from the CCTV we have to install, the monitoring, the safety equipment that we have to add on. So look, there are a lot of additional extras that are necessary for safety policy needs as well.
Georgia, for one
Of course.
brief question. You mentioned those extras. Are there any specific extras that the Inner West has that other LGAs don't?
I'll put that question to the director.
Thank you, through the chair. No, there are no unusual requirements.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got a mover and a seconder of the motion. Is there any further discussion? No, I'll go to the mover for a right of reply.
Wait, we're right.
Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Brings us to item 13, automated waste systems. Councillor Macri.
Chair, I've brought up a motion. I'd like to defer this item for a councillor workshop.
Okay.
I would second that.
Sorry, who was the second?
I would second that.
Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Macri, seconded by Councillor Howard. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 14, events and engagements at the Inner West Sustainability Hub.
I'll move this item with amendments, please.
Please do.
Thank you. I thank staff for preparing the report, and I want to also thank the stakeholders, including some current tenants of the hub and others who contributed to a really exciting program of ideas and activations that's detailed in this report. Anyone who's visited the hub knows that it's a great community and space already, but you can feel that there is potential to do so much more. It's a really fantastic program of events, including new festivals, artistic and live music events, new public art, engagement with local schools, and some great ideas to activate underutilised space in a really creative way. And I think it combines a lot of what our community is really passionate about, which is obviously sustainability and the circular economy, but also social justice, art, creativity, community, education, and more. And it all aligns really well with our council priorities as well. My amendments are really just about fleshing out and expanding a bit on what has come out of the engagement process and making it a bit more concrete. So to the program of engagements that's included, I would suggest we look at hosting the annual end-of-year reception for our environmental volunteers at the hub. For the EOI process, I'm really excited to see what comes out of that. There are no doubt some fantastic organisations in our local community who will engage in that process, and I'm really keen to get a report back to council at its conclusion to see who we could be looking at as the new tenant. Per a previous council resolution in March, we had resolved to use this opportunity to not just relocate the Footprints Eco Festival from Whites Creek Park to the hub, but also to use the opportunity to reimagine and refresh what that festival is, to present it to a new audience, to rebrand it. And I think a good place to start is to consult with the stakeholders who are already interested in environmentalism and sustainability on that branding and scheduling. And also, one of the things I was really excited to come out of that report was the suggestion of working with the Sustainable Schools program that Council runs, which is currently doing some great work rolling out FOGO to our local schools and early learning centres, championed by Councillor Howard. I think schools that are keen to take up FOGO and are interested in FOGO are probably likely to be interested in sustainability more broadly, and it's never too young to start educating our little inner Westies on that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Barlow. Do you wish to speak to it?
Very briefly, just to echo the sentiments that we want to see the Sustainability Hub succeed and grow. It's a real gem that we've got there, and we have some incredible tenants there, and anything that we can do to ensure that the Sustainability Hub is functioning as well as it can are great. These are great amendments, and I look forward to the program of events.
Thank you for that. If there's no amendments, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. It
Chair,
brings
could
us
I
to-
move?
Yes.
Sorry. Could I move item 15, please, with amendments?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll just wait for those to be put on screen. And I did, apologies, Catherine, I sent, she's captured it. Great. Thank you. This is yet another really fantastic grants program for this year with some very worthy recipients outlined in the report. And I have to say, I think our community grants is one of the best programs that Council runs. It really supports such a wide range of individuals, organisations, business chambers, not-for-profits and others. And every year it's just fantastic to read through and see the great work that so many people are doing in our community, so much of it not necessarily acknowledged all the time, but definitely very worthy. And providing this really meaningful financial support, I know, goes a long way for so many of these groups. This amendment really just reiterates a previous council resolution, which was that we would establish a grants stream as part of the Love Your Club program. Councillors will remember that this program was established to support our local community clubs, many of which are absolutely the lifebloods of their local neighbourhoods. And as part of that program, we resolved to establish the Small Clubs Network, and in particular, look at how we can support clubs that are looking to make the transition away from poker machine revenue. We know that many of these clubs are run on the smell of an oily rag, and every bit of funding counts. And when the margins are that slim, revenue that's gained from poker machines, however small, can go a really, really long way. So as part of helping them with that transition, having access to a funding stream to assist them with some minor infrastructure and maintenance works, which often chews up a lot of the budget, can go a really long way and have a huge impact. So I just resolved that per our previous resolution, we get a report back in November to detail how we can establish this grants program for clubs that are members of the Small Clubs Network and have signed a pledge of intention to transition away from poker machine revenue, or where they have already done that, to remain poker machine free. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Macri. Do you wish to speak to it? That's waived. There's no amendment. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Can I please move item 16, councillor representation on our committees?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Scott.
The officers provided a report which includes a summary of the councillor representation for the last year, and I have spoken with councillors across the chamber, and there are some small amendments. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank every councillor who has served on a committee for the last year. In addition to taking on the responsibilities of coming to council, preparing for council, being on a committee is also a significant donation of your time and an excellent way to engage in the community. Learning and making important decisions about flood management, or joining with our neighbouring councils to make sure that SS Rock is functioning as a collaborative peak body for councils across our region, is a really important part of civic engagement. but it is also a lot of work. And thank you to everyone who has contributed over the last year. There are just a few small changes from the year before. The General Manager's Performance Assessment Panel will be comprised of the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Howard and Councillor Antonou. The Flood Management Advisory Committee will be chaired by Councillor Howard with Councillor Blake as the councillor representative, and the Southern Sydney Regional Organisation of Councils will have representation from the Mayor, Councillor Howard, Councillor Atkins and Councillor Racidi as the alternates.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor Scott. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Howard. You wish to speak to it?
No.
That's waived. Is there anyone who wishes to to amend the motion? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 17, Reconciliation Action Plan.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move this, but first I have a couple of questions.
Of course.
So I'm just wondering through you, Mayor, if I can get a update, please, on the expected timeframe for the completion of the second Aboriginal Survival Memorial in Uluru Reserve at East Balmain. As I understand, it was due to be completed by the end of 2025.
I'll put that question to the Director.
Through you, Mayor. The process is well underway to get the Survival Memorial installed. It really will be right up to the wire at the end of the year. Part of the reason for that is the complexity of the site. There's been a number of state heritage requirements and permissions because of the Aboriginal heritage and having to get permissions to progress the works. We have been assured there are no heritage issues, so that's good. There's no extant Aboriginal history there of concern to community or Heritage New South Wales. The next steps are finalising the contracting for the artist. So Jason Wing was commissioned, you might remember, to do a gunya type sculpture. He had a couple of minor adjustments he had to make because the footings initially proposed weren't going to be strong enough for the structure and the actual physicality of the site. So he just has to agree to those amendments, which is routine. Then there's some contracting to do for the excavation works, and that requires a specialist landscape firm just to make sure that those footings are appropriate for an artwork. And there will have to be an archaeologist and a maritime archaeologist present just to make sure that the excavation is consistent with any other ongoing heritage, including the maritime nature and anything that might be found when they're doing the excavation. I think the team are very optimistic, but they keep assuring me it'll be the end of the calendar year, weather permitting.
Thank you for that.
Very ambitious. Can I also please just get an update on the pilot of the anti-racism bystander training, which I also understand is due to commence very soon?
I'll put that question to the Director.
Through you, Chair. There's a number of stages to this. We have signed a contract with the University of Western Sydney following a specialised procurement. Obviously, there aren't a lot of people who can do this work. They have an existing curriculum that they've actually rolled out for similar work with some government agencies and major not-for-profits, so they have the expertise. They will be customising it, though, to make sure that the training's relevant for the Inner West and some of the issues that residents have raised as part of the consultation. There will be a briefing of the local multicultural local democracy group on Thursday this week in relation to the project overall and the training. In October, there will also be some small group sessions with the trainers and members of the local democracy group if they want to make sure that the customising of the curriculum meets expectations, including community expectations. Then in November, there will be some trial sessions and further refinement. There's also some preparation work for people who want to participate. We're also working with schools at the moment. So there's a local primary school who've actually reached out to council and are very keen to pilot the training with their Year 6 students, and we anticipate that'll happen in February.
Thanks very much. Councillor Carlisle.
Thank you for that. So I'd like to noting that move that council receive and note this report on the implementation of our Innovate Reconciliation Action Plan. This report marks an important milestone for our council. We're nearing the end of the current 2-year RAP period, which we adopted in 2022, and the achievements demonstrate the Inner West's genuine commitment to reconciliation. Highlights include expanded relationships with Gadigal Information Service and Koori Radio, increased Yabun Festival funding, the identification of a feasible Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community hub, the Yeo Park Aboriginal Survival Memorial being a finalist in the New South Wales Local Government Excellent Awards, and the extensive use of the memorial by schools, unveiling the Blue Heritage Plaque at Camdenville Oval to honour the birthplace of the Koori Knockout, celebrating reconciliation and NAIDOC weeks with staff and community, the employment of 4 Aboriginal trainees in early learning, civil works, parks and street maintenance, the provision of bespoke support for Aboriginal families in early learning services, a commitment to the rollout of the anti-racism bystander training pilot for 400 participants, publishing of major new research on Aboriginal cultural heritage on the council website and libraries, new perfect match artworks, and the doubling of Indigenous procurement from 0.25% to 0.5% of contracts, and the engagement of over 20 supply nation businesses. Council's now preparing to develop our next 2-year RAP in partnership with the Local Democracy Group. This collaboration ensures our next plan will be community-led and responsive to the needs and aspirations of our First Nation residents. The completion of the Aboriginal Survival Memorial in Uluru Reserve, progress on the hub, and the pilot of the training will be 3 very significant commitments on which this new plan will be built. I want to acknowledge and thank our staff for their dedication and commitment to embedding the RAP across all areas of council, from our cultural advisor to the procurement teams, from early learning services to our outdoor crews. This work happens because our staff believe in reconciliation and are willing to go the extra mile to make it real.
Thanks very much, Councillor Carlisle. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Barlow. Do you wish to speak to it?
I do, and I just also have a question for staff and some amendments to
Yep.
put forward. Through you, Chair, how regularly do council staff perform a review of the actions and deliverables identified in the Reconciliation Action Plan?
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through you, Chair. I have regular one-on-ones with the relevant senior manager who's in charge of the RAP, so I do that probably once a month. Auntie Deb has regular conversations with colleagues across councils, so we have informal and very, very regular monitoring with my oversight. We also have a committee that meet periodically to make sure that all the recommendations are on track.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
I do have a few amendments to propose in addition to this motion.
Yep.
I commend the staff on the, if staff could display those on the screen, that'd be great. Thank you. I commend the staff on the work that they have done so far on the Reconciliation Action Plan. I understand there have been some great achievements, including groundbreaking internal research done into Aboriginal cultural heritage in the Inner West that has since been published to our website and in our libraries. I am deeply concerned, however, that our work is lagging behind. Of the 20 actions identified in our Reconciliation Action Plan, only 9 have been complete, with 11 marked as ongoing. I do want to note that of the 80 plus deliverables identified, 60 of them have been achieved. There's no doubt in my mind that work is going into achieving this plan, but I think we need to look at better ways of ensuring that we're completing these commitments as a priority. Under Reconciliation Australia's Reconciliation Action Plan framework, the types of action plans are designed to have a structured approach to advancing reconciliation and recommend timeframes for each stage of the process. I think it's great that a review is taking place relatively soon after our plan expired after that 2-year process. However, I'm concerned that a comprehensive review of our progress wasn't provided in this report to councillors and that there's such a significant sum of work left to do. Of particular note is how few actions that relate to internal reconciliation have been completed. One of the key objectives of an Innovate Reconciliation Action Plan is to embed reconciliation initiatives into our organisation. And accordingly, one of the key expectations is that we engage staff in reconciliation. I want to see these actions and deliverables pursued with urgency. Finally, another key objective of the Innovate Reconciliation Action Plan is that we utilise our sphere of influence as council to drive reconciliation, with key expectations including publicly reporting on progress to external stakeholders. This requires transparency and accountability from our council on the work we've done to reach these targets, And I don't feel that this report, in omitting these key markers of progress, like the traffic light spreadsheet, and making no mention of the sad fact that we have completed less than half of the actions we set out to achieve, is the kind of transparency or clarity in reporting the public would expect, or that will help us achieve our vision for reconciliation in the Inner West.
Okay. Councillor Carlo, do you wish to incorporate those amendments?
I'm happy to incorporate.
They're incorporated into the primary motion. Is there any further amendment to the primary motion? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 18, Birch Grove Oval floodlighting upgrade.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move to receive and note the report with a small amendment to rectify an administration error. The amendment corrects the key milestone date for planning and investigations, delivery programs, stakeholder identification and project risk identification from July-September 2026 to July-September 2025.
Thank you for that. I assume that was a typo in the report, was it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I just ask the, who's the responsible director? Is that Ryan or Peter? Can I just ask that we make note to avoid typos of such importance for infrastructure projects in publicly published reports? Okay, I'm happy to second that. Is there any amendment to the motion? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 20, Internal Ombudsman Shared Service Review of Customer Service Improvement Supplementary Report. Councillor Howard?
Yeah, I just moved the officer's recommendations and just want to say briefly that this review shows that we've made some progress on customer service, but there's clearly much more to do. I note that the report speaks at length about many initiatives that are proactive initiatives about us being out in the community, being available to the community, and I think that's really good, and I'm really proud that Labor councillors have brought much of that policy work and those initiatives forward. Residents rightly expect that council will be responsive and effective in every interaction, and that involves us being proactive. Look, I think the review more broadly highlights opportunities to better track complaints, delegate responsibility to staff, and ensure quality responses across all directorates, particularly in planning. Implementing these measures is essential to build trust and deliver the level of service our community deserves. So I commend the recommendations to this chamber, and I'm obviously speaking a little bit to the report beforehand also.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor D'Arienzo. Do you wish to speak to it? That's waived. Is there any amendment? Yep, Councillor Barlow.
Not an amendment, just a couple of questions through you, Chair.
Of course.
Through you, Chair, is the council concerned about the more than doubling of complaints about both planning and infrastructure over the 5 years?
I'll put that question to the General Manager.
Thank you, Chair. We've had an ongoing commitment to improve things across all areas of council. But if you have a look at the reduction of what we call Tier 1 complaints, they have reduced, and in numbers of other complaints have gone up. It depends on the type of activity we've got on that time or what we're going. Sometimes the complaints go up, i.e. for when we had FOGO going, the complaints rose with the rollout of that program. So as Councillor Howard alluded to, there's more work to be done. I'm pleased that the Tier 1 complaints have reduced, and that's improving, and we're not shying away, which is why I've probably overshared as much as information. I try to put as much in this as possible so councillors could see every area and every service area. We'll continue. I want to minimise the complaints as much as possible, and I can give an assurance to all the councillors there's a commitment across the executive to do the same.
Councillor Barlow. Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 22, update on major residential development panel and progress of housing delivery.
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor D'Arienzo.
I'd like to move this item with amendments as displayed.
Please proceed.
Thank you. These are three minor amendments to be able to strengthen these quarterly reports. The first is for the future reports to be authored by the General Manager to ensure that executive accountability for housing delivery is elevated to the strategic importance of housing supply that our community deserves. Second, that each report includes specific analysis of process bottlenecks, action plans and implementation timelines. And third, that we include the post-DA survey results in these reports so we can get a deeper understanding of the applicants' experiences with our processes. These changes will focus on reporting on housing delivery, and these amendments would apply to the December 2025 report, giving staff adequate time to establish the new framework. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor D'Arienzo. I'm happy to second your motion. Can I ask the General Manager just to speak to the report, and particularly in relation to the issues that Councillor D'Arienzo has raised in her amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I made sure, whilst my name's not on the report, I did have a review with the author of the report to make sure, and we touched on the bottlenecks, but more than happy to expand more on it, and I'm happy to author it. I wanted to make sure, I had a few other commitments on it, I wanted to make sure that we got the report up to council, so you got two this year, so that's why I didn't authorise it personally. Happy to do that. The post-DA survey results, that's no problem at all. We just haven't had enough data yet to make it meaningful, so the next time we report back, we should have some good information to share with the council.
And just in relation to the bottlenecks, having met 3 or 4 times now, what's the observations of the General Manager and the Director of Planning in regards to general trends and areas for improvement?
Yeah, in terms of areas improvements, referrals are always challenging depending on the complexity of the report, so internal referrals. So we're looking at monitoring that closely. And also the Design Excellence Review Panel, which a certain size scale DAs get referred to. Sometimes there's been some bottlenecks in going to that, and we're working at improving that. There has been issues with having a quorum for that, and that's been recently resolved, but I also want to look at that doesn't delay, and then the time frame for us to then send off requests for further information. So we're looking at those 3 things.
Okay, so can we expect those 3 issues to be addressed in detail in the December update?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Just in relation to the Design Excellence Review Panel, you referenced that that there's been some issues with delays there, including the panel being in quorum. Is that correct?
There was a couple of times where the timing didn't work out, or they didn't have enough people, but my understanding is that is being resolved now, but still it is a time constraint when you've got to put something through a group. It needs to happen. I'm just trying to work out how to simplify that so it doesn't delay.
And how does that work? The Design Excellence Review Panel, are the members of that panel paid a fee by council for their participation?
Yes.
Can I ask that the issue of the in-court meetings also be addressed in the December report?
Yeah. Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks very much for that. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or speak to it? Councillor Atkins?
I just have a question through you, Chair. I'd just like to say this report's really useful, particularly having the update on development where council's not the consent authority. Just one question about the SSDAs and the Parramatta Road, Piedmont Bridge, Camperdown, WestConnex dive site. In the column that says years for build to rent / affordable housing, it says 15 years. That seems to contradict the answer that was given to the Mayor last night, I think it was the Mayor, when he asked about whether the build to rent essential housing at the Camperdown dive site was in perpetuity, and we were told yes, unless I misunderstood the question you were asked.
Through you, Chair, I apologise, but I don't recall saying yes to it being in perpetuity, so I apologise if That was what I said. But can I just say that it's relying on the housing SEP, and the housing SEP sets out not a maximum but a minimum of 15 years, and therefore that's the minimum.
I'd like to make a point of clarification, having participated in the announcement of the project. I was in attendance at the announcement, and the announcement was that Landcom would remain the owner, the government agency Landcom would remain the owner of those units in perpetuity. So I have yet to see any evidence that would suggest that that's incorrect, and I refute the suggestion that it's incorrect. In relation, sorry, just one further point of clarification in relation to the same issue. So on page 520, the number Parramatta Road, Piermont Bridge Road, Camperdown, West Connects dive site, the number of affordable housing units listed in the table is nil. And then the total figure below lists only the 115 properties, the 115 affordable housing properties at the Timber Yard site. So that's a typo, is it? Because there's 200 affordable properties through the West Connects dive site.
Through you, Chair. In essence, I guess, yes, it is. What has been done in this table is that it's called out the 220 key worker housing under number of dwellings, with the total number in brackets, which is also been changed, I think, since the 8th of September, that there has been some additional information provided about the total number of dwellings and their makeup. So 220 key worker housing or essential worker housing out of the total.
So then, in fact, the correct number for the total number listed below would be 220 plus 115. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks very much for that. Any further discussion? If not, I'll go to the mover for a right of reply. Waived. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. That brings us to item 23, mandatory reporting to Council of Report received from Fire and Rescue.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that we receive the report from the Fire and Rescue regarding the 2 properties, one in Summerhill and one in Ashfield.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you wish to speak to it?
No.
Does anyone have any questions? If not, I'll ask if there's a seconder for the motion, seconded by Councillor D'Arienzo. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, that brings us to item 25.
Yep. Chair, can I move this with a very minor amendment, which is just that future iterations of the report be renamed Update on Creative Town Halls program and focus just on the metrics of that program, and is authored by the Director of Communities. That was the initial intention of the council resolution when we moved it back, I can't remember when, to have this regular report, but I appreciate that the original wording might have been a bit broad. So I just want to clarify that we don't necessarily need an update on every booking at every council venue in the 6-month period. We just want it to focus on the Creative Town Halls program. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Smith. I'm happy to second your motion. Waive my right to speak. Is there any amendment? Actually, I might just pose a couple of questions before putting the motion to a vote. Can I put a question to the relevant council officer about what the ongoing advertising and promotional campaign is for the Creative Town Halls program at present?
Through you, Chair, there was an initial marketing strategy for the program, which in recent times could be further enhanced.
I'll just ask for a bit more detail on that. What are we currently doing to advertise and promote the Creative Town Halls program?
Through you, Chair. My understanding is that the Director, Major Projects, is probably referring to the very big banners that have been put on all the relevant buildings. In following up on that, we have a concierge service where officers take inquiries and monitor a website page where people can come through expressing interest. We do periodically also, with our colleagues in comms, do social media call-outs for particular events, and also to remind the creative community the sites are available. We also have opportunities regularly through the local democracy group with the creative sector and through the Creative Toolbox Symposium to drum up more business for that initiative.
Yeah. But is there any recurrent promotion or advertising of the program generally into the creative sector within the Inner West?
No, I think we could probably refresh that now we've had the initial blitz.
Okay. Well, can I propose a further amendment then, that council commence ongoing promotion and advertising of the Creative Town Halls program? You amenable to that, Deputy Mayor?
I am.
Okay. Sorry to do that to the minute takers. Was that short and clear enough for you to? Point 3. Yep, of the Creative Town Halls program. Excellent. Thanks very much for that. Is there any further amendment to the motion? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Now, given that the various members of the Joya family have been so patient in waiting around and it seems over a number of years for wanting to have this issue addressed, I wanted to take a few moments to ask a few questions in public about item 28 in regards to Leichhardt Park, Wharf and Pontoon. So if I could just put a few questions to the relevant council officers. Can I just ask to start with for a layperson's explanation of, the layperson's verbal explanation of what the findings of the investigations have been to date?
Through the chair. The report investigated the depths of the bay in the near vicinity to the existing wharf and pontoon. It found that the depths are similar in the immediate vicinity to both the pontoon and the wharf, which therefore means that regardless of which of the assets we're looking at, both can only service the same size boat, or a boat that has the same draft. That draft is equivalent to a boat in the order of an 8 metre long boat. Now, of course, there are variants of boats and there are different tides, but as the consultant has said, we're required to just report on a standard metric here, and that being an 8 metre long boat is what the pontoon and the wharf can have berthed at the present time. It also noted that the depths of the water further out from the wharf would accommodate for up to a 12 metre long boat, and a 12 metre long boat is the maximum size boat that can enter the nearby bay. So the consultant has then concluded that if we were able to have a facility that reached further out than where the current wharf is, then we could adequately cater for all the boats that can navigate within that near vicinity of the bay. The consultant did also consider various different scenarios and the various costs to do those scenarios as well, including demolishing the existing pontoon, retaining the pontoon, demolishing the wharf, relocating the pontoon to where the wharf is, extending the existing wharf, and retaining as well.
Thank you. And so the option for extending a pontoon onto the existing functional facility, that could progress regardless of other considerations in regards to the issues timber wharf.
So we couldn't. So the pontoon itself, where it is at the moment, it can't stay where it is and be extended out and get to the deep water. It would need to be lifted up or disconnected from its current position and moved along the foreshore. If it were moved along the foreshore, it would then actually it already does reach out far enough to get to the depths to cater for the bigger boat. So that pontoon, if it were relocated, it could accommodate for the bigger boats.
Okay, thank you. I think that's clear. And what is the approximate cost of the full restoration of the timber wharf? I understand that this would be an estimate.
Okay, so that as stated in the report, to replace the existing timber wharf and retain the pontoon would cost around $700,000.
Thank you. And to move the existing pontoon so that it were able to cater for 12-metre long boats, what would be the cost of that?
Yeah, if we were to move that pontoon and demolish the timber wharf.
No, just to move the pontoon.
Just to move the pontoon. I don't think we've quoted that price in the report, but I believe it's in the order of around $170,000.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to move an amendment that we receive a further update at the October Ordinary Council meeting. Actually, look, I'll be realistic, at the November Ordinary Council meeting. And I'll just speak to that very briefly. I don't want to promise you an outcome, but I think you've waited long enough for an answer. The commissioning of the new pontoon occurred in 2008. I'm the only person here who was elected to council at that time. I don't believe I was on the council at the time that the decision was made or that the project was undertaken. So no one here, I don't think, can be held accountable for the decision that was made then. We do want to I want to express to you that we understand why this is such an historic location. The birthplace of the Italian fishing fleet, which has played such an important role in the history of the Sydney fish markets, of Leichhardt, of the foreshore, of the Bay Run, of the Apia Club, of La Montage. So I'm certainly fully familiar with that, and that's why we initiated the project to have the storyboards installed. And I understand why you're passionate about ensuring that the heritage that many of your ancestors helped to create is properly respected and that there's a resolution to this issue. And I think what we can take responsibility for now is ensuring that there's not ongoing inertia and that one way or another we get to a solution which you may or may not be 100% happy with, but the issue can't keep dragging on indefinitely. So I'm going to propose that we receive a further report in November in which the issues that I think have been quite well articulated by Director Shields can be brought together in a set of recommendations which you can see in advance of the meeting, and I'm happy to discuss them with you once they've been published. So I will move that way. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Do you wish to speak to it? Okay. Is there any amendment to the motion? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. You're welcome to stick around for the other items if you want, but it'll only get more boring from here. Thank you. Okay, item 29, car share spots. Whose motion is that?
That was mine.
Councillor Macri.
Yep. Okay, this motion is actually just to get a report on the annual fee for the car share spaces and to include a comparison of other councils and come back to council for consideration in the February 2026 meeting. It's a request for information.
Sorry, Councillor Macri.
Yep, that's okay. Yep, so it's just a request for information.
Yep. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Rosidi. Do you wish to speak to it? Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Barlow.
Just have some amendments. The Greens obviously completely support efforts to reduce reliance on car ownership. However, we do support this motion with the following amendments. More or less, we want to find out how often these state spaces are actually being utilised. I understand that there are currently 104 car share parking spaces across the inner west, and they are all currently slated for exclusive use by GoGet. Offering these spaces to FlexiCar is, I understand, the first inclusion of an alternative company to use these spaces. Anecdotally, residents have reported that these spaces are underutilised in their area, and it may well be that dedicating these spaces to particular companies, as opposed to offering them for all car sharing arrangements, is leading to suboptimal outcomes. Our council, I think, as a whole, is dedicated to reducing reliance on car ownership in as many creative ways as we can think of. So I'm not convinced that giving companies exclusive use of public land, and in so doing locking residents into the use of only one company due to where they live, is the most ideal way of encouraging more car sharing in the inner west.
Can I seek clarification, Councillor Barlow? From my interpretation, the only substantive amendment proposed in your amendment to that of the primary motion is to add the words. So the primary motion would read that a report on the use and the annual fee for car share spaces, etc.
That would be appropriate.
You amenable to that, Councillor Macri?
Yep.
That's incorporated. Councillor Howard?
I'll just speak briefly to this also. I also support this motion and the amendment, and I thank both my Marrickville Midgebury colleagues for working so well and collaboratively on this. I think car share is critically important to the transport mix as we're moving forward, and particularly as we are working through policy objectives such as growing our community and reducing the reliance on private vehicle use. That this is a really important aspect of it. It is the right time to look at the use and the funding around the use of car spaces and the allocation of car spaces for car share spots. But I do just want to reflect back to the excellent speaker who spoke at the public forum at the last meeting, who I thought did an excellent job of just explaining how vitally important car share is for the environment, for reducing emissions, for reducing congestion, and for easing many of the challenges that we have in our local community, including parking. So I just wanted to, again, just reflect here tonight the values and the sentiment of the speaker, and to thank her again for her excellent contribution, and look forward to working again with my colleagues when we get the report back.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 30, tree removal at 54 Thornley Street. Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin by noting the 400 local residents who signed a petition opposing the removal of this tree, which I've tabled and was displayed at the last meeting last month. We heard from speakers at the previous meeting. We heard their passion and the desire to keep this tree. While the origins of when this tree was planted, there are differing origin stories for it. It is believed to be planted in the late 1980s, and it's a tree that has provided shade, solace, and also a home to wildlife as well. But this is a motion that is not about the removal of the tree, but the council's approach, which can only be described as undemocratic, unresponsive, untransparent, and unimaginative. Residents requested information about the decision to remove this tree and was not provided in a timely manner, so resorted to finding out information via the GIPA Act. And that revealed a distinct lack of robustness behind the decision to remove the tree on the basis of health. A later review found that the tree in fact was healthy, and the decision was retrofitted to remove the tree on the basis of the condition of the footpath. And there's no doubt that the footpath is in terrible condition. Certainly needs to be remediated. But as bad as the state is, no work has been done to prevent any risk to pedestrians using that footpath. There's no signage, there's no rerouting, there's no reduction in car parking, there's no effort to alleviate risk in concerns to the footpath. So it's come down to the fact that there is no need to have a tree or a safe footpath. We can have both. We can do both. There is not one or the other. This motion is calling for the council to meet with residents to explore how this can be done, whether it's taking some of the road, rerouting the footpath, seeking extension.
We'll move an extension of time of 1 minute, seconded by Councillor Atkins. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's put the options on the table. Let's consult with the community to see what works, rather than just saying no. And finally, I'd like to address the question of liability that was raised in the staff response. This is not an open question. Section 731 of the Local Government Act makes it clear that there is no such a liability for councillors and council staff acting in good faith on such matters. And I resent the implication that any councillor or council staff was acting in not acting in good faith in relation to this issue.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Blake. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Barlow, do you wish to speak to it?
I do, thank you. I also have a couple of questions of council staff. Through you, Chair, when council is made aware of a trip hazard but immediate rectification is not possible, is emergency infrastructure not typically erected in the area to reduce the possibility of people encountering the hazard?
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through the chair, there are many situations where there are trip hazards that exist across our council area. Decisions around managing risk then relate to many different aspects that influence that particular location, and therefore the risk that applies. That can include the gravity of the deformation of the footway, how much it's deteriorating, the volume of pedestrians passing through the area, the amount of lighting, debris on the surface that's expected to be there. There are many considerations to be made for any trip hazard. Most of the time, where we can, we obviously look to minimise the amount of resources that council has to need to keep committing to managing trip hazards. We don't want that. We don't want the community to be unsafe. And often there is a decision made that we can leave a hazard perhaps for some amount of time, with a view that we need to address it and prioritise it amongst the many other hazards that we also need to manage and prioritise.
Thanks very much, Director Shields.
Thank you. Through you,
Councillor
Chair.
Barlow.
Why was that not done in this case?
You need to direct your questions through me, Councillor. It's not a
I
cross-examination.
did say through you, Chair. Maybe I said it too flat, but I did.
Okay, I've just received some requests from councillors that you just speak a bit more clearly into the microphone. So maybe if you could just pull it a bit closer towards you. I'll put that question to the Director.
So the hazard of the footway was something that our civil crews did in fact go to the site and did inspect. There was no determination at the time that there was an any immediate action to take. The decision was that tree removal was the approach that was recommended.
Thank you for that, Councillor Barlow.
Thank you. Look, I just want to speak briefly to my support of the motion. I think it's absolutely remarkable that the council would respond to the loud and emotional concerns of its residents about the proposal to remove this beloved tree with such heavy-handed tactics, and then to threaten councillors with legal action for asking that such a decision be deferred until the petition created by residents could be considered by council. It's absolutely remarkable, not to mention a tremendous overstep, to be told by council staff that essentially your advocacy on behalf of the people that elected you could lead to legal liability if someone trips in the street. I note that the
Councillor Barlow, with respect, I'm not going to make a point of order, but as you know, it's my responsibility to ensure that council officers are being addressed with respect in the meeting, and I'll just alert you to the fact that I think some of your commentary so far has been on the edge of that limit.
Thank you, Chair. I note that the limb failure of this tree was the issue originally cited to residents in correspondence that I have personally seen. The tree has now been assessed to be healthy, and the issue of accessibility now identified as the primary concern council has in their response. In this report, council staff outlined significant fears around their liability in this instance. However, as we've just heard, no steps have been taken since then to reduce that liability by erecting temporary infrastructure whilst this decision plays out within council. In the public forum of our last meeting, we heard a very passionate plea to save this tree from Vincent Burett, a resident who lives next to the tree and was more than willing to explore alternative options with our council to ensure that we can have an accessible footpath and save this tree. The approach to this tree removal raises for me, and I echo Councillor Blake's concerns about how thorough assessments of tree removals really are when we are trying wherever possible to retain the existing tree canopy of the inner west. This has not been in observation a creative or collaborative problem-solving process. I'm, of course, by no means suggesting that we therefore leave the existing accessibility unaddressed, and nor are the many residents who signed this petition. I think our council has a responsibility first and foremost to our residents, and if almost 400 people tell us that removing the tree will be a significant concern to them, I think we have a responsibility to be more creative in the way we solve this accessibility issue as well.
Thanks very much, Councillor Barlow.
Chair, I'd like to speak against this motion if I could.
Of course, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. The first point I'd note is that per the officer's advice that's been provided to us, legal services have advised that the role of a councillor is not to influence a properly made delegated decision by council officers. So it's not actually clear to me that a decision to remove an individual tree is something that councillors could legally override. And clearly this decision has been made as the result of a proper risk assessment. We all know the dangers that trees like this one can and do pose to both people and property. And if we needed a reminder, it's worth noting that just last month, a woman in Annandale nearly lost her life because a tree very similar to this one fell across Booth Street, and she was trapped in her car and had to be cut out of her car by fire and rescue. Just last year, a tree very similar to this fell through someone's roof in Annandale, and that was after that we had received a notice of concern about that tree as well. The second point that I want to make, which I'm very happy to reiterate again in this chamber, is that very fortunately we are spending $2 million every single year to replace inappropriate trees just like this one with more appropriate trees, better trees. And this year to date, I believe we are on track to exceed our target of 1,000 new public trees planted per year, which I believe was detailed in the quarterly delivery report that we all adopted last month or the month before. So there is absolutely no doubt that where inappropriate trees like this one are removed, they are wherever and whenever possible being replaced as quickly as possible. So I don't think we should be concerned about the loss of an individual tree when our approach is very clearly about planting as many trees as we possibly can, just making sure they're appropriate and in the right places. There's no doubt we appreciate the passion that the community has for favourite trees, which is why when residents first contacted Councillor Scott about this tree, as noted in the report, she immediately reached out to the General Manager, urging him to pause the planned removal works until we received more detailed advice. And that advice is now before us in black and white. I'd ask for a very brief extension of time.
Moved by Councillor Howard, an extension of time of 1 minute, seconded by Councillor Clay. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried.
It is clear that Council is now aware that this tree poses a risk to the community. The tree has a significant lean towards the road. It has dropped limbs on 3 documented occasions. The roots are badly lifting the footpath, as multiple councillors have noted, making it difficult and inaccessible and unsafe to navigate. The staff have thoroughly assessed possible alternatives and no other options are viable. And as councillors, we have a responsibility to manage risks effectively. The advice we have received is clear. The risk posed by this tree is unacceptable and we must act accordingly. I appreciate it's not the outcome that councillors had hoped for, nor the one that we wanted when we contacted the General Manager for further advice, but I believe it is an outcome that we have a responsibility to accept. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. So the mover of the motion is Councillor Blake, the seconder is Councillor Barlow. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or to speak against it? If not, I will go to Councillor Blake for a right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll waive that.
That's waived. I'll put the Blake Barlow motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It's 3 votes in favour. All those against? That's 10 votes against. That has been defeated. That brings us to item 31. No,
Yeah.
I've got that wrong. No, I've got that right. For once.
Cooks River Lighting. I'm really excited to bring this motion and to celebrate what is a truly remarkable community win. The funding for lighting along the Cooks River pathway from Kendrick Park to Steele Park is a direct result of the dedication, persistence and courage of our community. I want to particularly acknowledge Kira McKenzie, the Cooks River Alliance, the Mud Crabs and the Marrickville Football Club and the many other organisations and individuals whose advocacy has turned concern into action. The lighting will make the pathway safer and more welcoming for everyone, walkers, cyclists, families, friends. It's a reminder that when our community speaks up and community and government listen, real change happens. I want to thank the New South Wales State Government, Transport for New South Wales and the member for Summer Hill for their persistent advocacy to deliver this funding. It is a huge win for our local community. This additional funding also enables us to examine other projects to improve safety and access in the Marrickville Midgebury ward. The Sydenham Road strategy is also in need of funding, and redirecting, not resurrecting, the funds council had originally planned to spend, but that is no longer required because of the state government's contribution, means we can also fund critically needed lighting, footpath and parking upgrades on Sydenham Road near the metro and train station, as well as additional crossings and active transport links. This is all coming together to make Marrickville one of the safest suburbs for people who walk and ride. I look forward to seeing these upgrades to both the Cooks River and to the Sydenham Road completed, and to continuing to work together with all levels of government to make the inner west safer, greener and more connected for all.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Barlow.
I do have a question for staff and some amendments, if I may.
You may.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. In the November 2024 meeting, we passed item 13, which asked Council to urgently implement key priorities and observations from the New South Wales Police security assessment of the Cooks River Walk that are within Council's authority, and identified not only essential lighting but other key measures like pathway maintenance, vegetation and fence line maintenance, and signage through parks and pathways. Can staff provide an update to the Council on what work has been undertaken to progress work on the infrastructure like this, outside of the essential lighting upgrades?
I'll put that question to the council officers.
Through you, Chair, in terms of the maintenance aspects, there has been maintenance officers who have walked the area and undertaking trip repairs and other minor improvements. There's been pruning of trees and plants in general that were blocking lights to improve the lighting aspect of it. In terms of the overall project, it's quite complex given the presence of a Viva pipeline beneath the ground. That poses a number of constraints with the design, and there's been significant stakeholder engagement through this journey with utility providers and Transport for New South Wales to understand what can be done. And now we're at the point of embarking on the design elements after that due diligence.
Thank you. As I said, I do have some amendments if they could be displayed on screen. Again, I commend this motion. I'm really pleased to hear that the state government has committed additional funding to upgrade the lighting along the Cooks River. This is a key safety measure that the community has needed for a really long time. As someone who used to run along this river simply at night, this was never an option for a route for me. I'm proposing these amendments simply because I think there are other key measures that were identified as additional key safety priorities that we need along the Cooks River Walk, and I want to ensure that they aren't delayed. I appreciate the Sydenham Road strategy. There is a great deal of work that's gone into it. It's also very, very important, but I think this is a part of a safety piece that needs to be looked at holistically, and I want to make sure that that's not delayed.
You wish to incorporate that amendment?
I wish to ask two questions, if I may.
Yep, of course.
The first question through you, Chair, is to the Minister, sorry. It's very late. The Director for, what are you, Ryan? Sorry, what's your name? Major projects, sorry. Will the $1.6 million allocated by the state government cover all the action items detailed in the security assessment of Mackie Park to Steele Park from New South Wales Police?
I'll put that question to the Director.
Through you, Chair, yes.
So it will be covered?
Yes.
Okay, so my second question then is through you, Chair, is to the Director of Engineering. What would a $1.6 million, if we were to reallocate this funding to the Sydenham Road strategy, what would it achieve? What would it deliver?
I'll put that question to the Director.
Through the Chair. So we already have, we had $1 million for this strategy through a New South Wales government grant, which was 100% funding, and that works was able to ensure that we could do new footway work, furniture, lighting, trees, art, but it was only for a relatively short segment on the northern side of Sydenham Road, and it would reach from the railway station up to Fitzroy Street. This additional funding would ensure that we'd be able to fulfil the actual full intentions of the project, which was otherwise going to have to be phased, and at some time in the future we would have to return to the site. And it would mean that we'd be able to do, again, footpaths, trees, curbing, paving, art and lighting, all the way up to Victoria Street and all the way, so therefore on the northern side of the road. It would also allow us to build around 4 raised pedestrian crossings on side streets along that route as well. So it's a significant amount of funding that would see the project through.
Thank you. With that, I would like to speak against this amendment. I think it's not needed. We already know that we have the funding that is available will cover the items that are already listed in the security assessment. And second to that, we're effectively getting 2 projects here for the price of 1. This is going to turbocharge pedestrian safety and pedestrian accessibility in Marrickville. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge that, this is because staff and councillors are working together to get this done. And I'm really proud to continue to work with staff to get this done and to find good, economically responsible ways that we working together can deliver for the people of Marrickville in this respect. So whilst I totally appreciate where Councillor Barlow is coming. We all want to see the Cooks River to be a safe and accessible pathway all the way along, but we've got that. We've got both.
And thank you, Councillor Howard, for delivering. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the amendment from Councillor Barlow? Is there a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Atkins will second that. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to it? If not, we'll put that. All those in favour of the Barlow-Atkins amendment, please raise your hands. That's 3 votes in favour. All those against? That's 10 votes against. That has been defeated. We'll go back to the primary motion. Is there any further amendment to the primary motion? If not, I'll go to Councillor Howard for a right of reply.
Just thanking all councillors and all staff for again working towards these important projects. I do just want to reiterate that this is a huge win, and I do recognise that we are all working together to achieve these goals. And I want to thank the community for their persistence in getting this done. This is such exciting news for Marrickville and Tempe.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 32, School Road Safety Audit.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just have a few amendments that I've circulated earlier. I want to start by thanking the staff for their collaboration on this and to thank Councillor Ferguson for her work on this as well. We have collaborated on this and both share a passion for making the roads around our schools safer in the Inner West. Look, every parent knows that feeling, the rush at the school pickup time, the busy road, the constant worry about whether our kids are safe. Road trauma remains the #1 killer of children over 2, and the most dangerous time in our roads is 3 p.m. We cannot accept that risk at our schools is normal. This motion is about putting safety first. It's about listening to parents, teachers, students, and residents and taking a clear-eyed look at what's working and what isn't. By reviewing road safety at every school and engaging directly with our community, we can identify what needs urgent fixing and where we can be more ambitious, whether that's better crossings, clearer signage, safer speeds, or fresh infrastructure. At its heart, this is about giving parents peace of mind and giving kids the freedom to walk, cycle, and travel to school safely. Let's make our streets safer, our communities stronger, and our children's lives more secure. There are a few amendments that have been requested by staff, and they're reasonable amendments. Firstly, to ensure we're getting the terminology right when we're talking to Transport for New South Wales and other agencies. We just want to replace the word audit with review. And that really is about just making sure the terminology is correct. An audit, I understand it, is usually means we're working with external consultants. This is really always the intention of this was that our staff would own this and that would conduct this work in-house. Secondly, we just want to seek to amend the time for work to occur. And I think that's reasonable. This is a significant amount of work and staff resources are going to be required for this. So the extension of time to February ensures that we get the work done properly and within the staffing resources.
Thanks very much, Councillor Howard. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Barlow. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, just because I do have some additional amendments to this.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a great initiative, and I think we all want to ensure the children of the Inner West are as safe as possible travelling to and from school. The intent here is in the knowledge that accessibility needs affect both students and parents and guardians that take them to school, and wanting to ensure that when we're doing the work that you've proposed here, we don't have to double up on the work I know we're doing already to evaluate and upgrade our streets with accessibility infrastructure. Making our schools more accessible is important and worthy work, and we should always be open to opportunities to make our infrastructure safe for everyone.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
I would incorporate those. Thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. Accessibility lifts access for everybody, and I really appreciate you picking that up. And I absolutely appreciate you correcting with Catholic to religious. I obviously went to a Catholic school and forgot that other people do other things. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for that. There's no further discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No.
I beg your pardon. I'm very sorry. With respect, just where you've said amend point 2 as follows, just in the spirit of keeping audit, change to review. Would you mind changing that one word to review, please?
Absolutely, that would be consistent.
And is that then incorporated into the primary motion?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Can I ask the minute takers to display the amended primary motion, please? Everybody clear on what we're voting on? Okay, I'll put the Howard Barlow motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 34, support for Inner West Tech and Startup.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the motion with a amendment. I'm removing the second half of item 4 of my motion, which requests a plan for Council's procurement process to enable consideration and piloting of local AI and technology proposals. I'm removing this due to the concern that the debate around the ethics and the merit of AI will overshadow the core intention of this motion, which is to support a fantastic new tech hub, Inner West Startup and Tech. The hub was created by Inner Westies for Inner Westies and embodies the core values and culture of the Inner West. It is all about inclusivity and providing a relaxed and supportive environment where members can access advice, support and feedback. Sydney's tech and startup scene is valued at around $55 million with over 3,000 startups and a fast-growing workforce. Supporting Inner West Startup and Tech is a great opportunity for the Inner West Council to further support the tech community as we do already so well in the creative space and across other sectors of the Inner West. I've attended an Inner West Startup Tech and Startup event where the beer and the pizza flow. These guys walk the talk. The events are extremely well attended, welcoming, informative and supportive. The best thing about this hub, in my mind, is that it doesn't matter where you went to school, what your background is, the doors are wide open and welcoming. Great ideas don't discriminate, and neither does the Inner West Startup and Tech. I'm really excited by the prospect of the council working to further support the great work of the Inner West Tech and Startup Hub is doing in our community.
Thanks very much, Councillor Ferguson. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Barlow. Councillor Barlow, I must say your enthusiasm for Labor motions is quite noticeable tonight. It's great to see your support for Labor policies agenda.
I do have some amendments, though.
Of course. Well, we've moved on from amends at least, so small victories.
If staff wouldn't mind just displaying the amendments on the screen, and I have discussed these with Councillor Ferguson, and I commend your work on bringing this together and for chatting the intent of the motion through with me. Thank you. It might be hard for us to now recall August's public forum, but if you can, try to cast your mind back to Ashita or Ishi Gupta's address. Initially, my response to this motion was very similar to the concerns she articulated in her experience with the hub. Whilst plenty of people in the Inner West already work in and spend time using tech for recreation, often diverse voices are very underrepresented within. Women, girls, and non-binary individuals often have an incredibly difficult time in this space. So difficult I wrote my thesis on how this issue presents itself in the gaming community. Understanding the mission of this hub better has set these concerns at ease, and I thank both Councillor Ferguson for her time in explaining this work and for the presentations we heard from the members of the hub in the last meeting. My amendment displayed on the screen is simply aimed at explicitly including in the work that we do with this hub the people who are so often passed over for opportunities or excluded from them entirely. Even in our diverse neighbourhood of the Inner West, I know there are significant gender barriers in this industry, and I'd like to see us prioritise trying to solve at least some of them. Finally, I also thank Councillor Ferguson for removing the elements of AI from her motion. AI is incredibly, unbelievably bad for our environment, and our council should, to my mind, be moving as quickly away from the use of this tech as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Ferguson, do you wish to incorporate that into the primary motion?
I'm happy to incorporate the amendment.
Okay. There's no further discussion. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 35, rights to protest.
Thank you, Mayor. We're at a point in our democracy where it feels like the right to protest is more important than ever. From climate action to protesting a genocide, people are taking to the streets all over the world. And in our own city, only a few weeks ago, hundreds of thousands of people turned up in the pouring rain to march across the Harbour Bridge for humanity, including many, many Inner West residents. The right to protest is a cornerstone of a mature democracy, a fundamental right that must be protected. To quote the UN Special Rapporteur on Toxic Substances and Human Rights, peaceful protests are a legitimate exercise of the right to freedom of assembly and enable citizens to mobilise their concerns and make them visible to authorities. And yet the Human Rights Law Centre has described New South Wales laws as anti-democratic, disproportionate and in violation of international human rights law. The New South Wales Council for Civil Liberties warns that they significantly infringe people's rights to freedom of movement, of speech, of assembly and of political communication. These rights are not absolute, but any restriction must be necessary, proportionate and an appropriate response to a pressing social need. To be frank, criminalising actions that close or obstruct roads and bridges and cause traffic diversions and economic loss is neither necessary, proportionate nor appropriate. As Justice Riggs said in her Harbour Bridge March judgment, simply causing disruption or inconvenience is not sufficient grounds in and of itself to restrict the right to protest. I know many of us in this chamber will have taken part in protests about all sorts of issues, ranging from anti-war, green bans, climate actions, women's and queer rights, and fair pay and workplace conditions, to more locally focused matters like WestConnex. Surely none of us want to see the right to express our views to government curtailed in the ways that have been happening over a number of years. We all know true democracy comes when people can express their disagreement without the fear of being criminalised. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Atkins. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Barlow. Do you wish to speak to it?
Just briefly, if I can.
Of course.
Look, the laws we're talking about are draconian laws. If we are in any way going to purport ourselves to be a progressive council who is interested in protecting democratic rights like freedom to protest, then this is a no-brainer. What's going on at Macquarie Street to block our rights is anti-worker, anti-democratic, and frankly embarrassing. These are silencing measures and used in a targeted way. They were used to try and stop the Bridge March. However, very little was done when actual neo-Nazis organised rallies and walked down our streets. Just today, it was announced by SBS News that Australia placed at number 2 in the top 10 countries globally for pro-Palestinian protests. And no doubt the dedication of those protesters was on Prime Minister Albanese's mind when he made the declaration outside the 80th session of the UN General Assembly on the weekend that Australia will recognise an independent and sovereign state of Palestine. Of course, as Greens, we certainly wouldn't view the work there as thus being complete, but what I do think it makes clear is that protest is an essential and important part of a healthy democracy. If anyone here caught public transport through the Inner West on the 3rd of August, they would have seen how great a part of those protests Inner West residents have always been. Inner Westies turned out in droves to join the march across the Harbour Bridge. The march was not violent and progressed without incident, despite being one of the largest demonstrations Sydney has ever seen. Inner West residents deserve to continue to have a space to protest. We must reverse this trend and enshrine the right to protest, which won us many of the rights we have today, and which we will continue to need to use to enshrine the rights of still vulnerable individuals within our community today.
Thanks very much, Councillor Barlow. I wish to speak against the motion, and in doing so, I wish to say at the outset that Inner West Council and myself specifically strongly support the right of local citizens and indeed all citizens to peacefully protest. And furthermore, I personally support the right of citizens to have attended the Walk for Humanity across the Harbour Bridge and believe that that was a good and proper public protest in support of an urgent cause. I believe that the motion before us is lacking in specificity. It does not list the, it does not specify the laws to which we are meant to be objecting. I do not agree with point 2 that the right to protest has been under attack in New South Wales. I think, including as exemplified by some of the comments that have just been made by the mover and seconder, there's been more protests held in New South Wales and in Sydney in the past 2 years than at any time in living memory. And so and the assertion from Councillor Barlow, and I don't dispute it, that there was information released by SBS today that Australia has seen the second largest number of pro-Palestinian protests of any country on earth, would suggest that there is not an attack on the right to protest. In fact, protest is flourishing. And I see no reason to object to that, but I don't think that we should be endorsing a motion which would see us opposing laws which are not specified within the motion, and I don't agree with the assertion that the right to protest is dissipating in New South Wales, and on that basis, I oppose the motion. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or to speak against it? If not, I'll go to Councillor Atkins for a right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, I do not have a list with me to amend this on the floor. So potentially that would have been possible. But New South Wales does have more anti-protest laws than anywhere else in Australia. And it's not quite clear why that's the case. Clearly, we're not any worse in our behaviour at protests. And any suggestion that we are is certainly not borne out by the lack of arrests at the peaceful protests which have taken place weekly in the city for almost 2 years now. I do believe that our current protest laws are unnecessary and over the top. They need fixing. That includes some of the laws about protesting near places of worship and other laws relating to the restrictions on the rights of protest. So I still intend to vote for this. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Atkins. I'll put the Atkins-Barlow motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That's 3 votes in favour. All those against? That's 10 votes against. The motion has been defeated. I think that brings us to item 37. Is that correct? Have I got that right? Okay, thanks for that. I'll just speak very briefly to this motion. I think the arguments for it are self-evident from the motion that has been tabled. Some of the feedback that we've been receiving through the exhibition process for our Fairer Future plan is that, one, residents in the south side of our local government area would like to see the increased density redistributed more fairly across the LGA. That's a stated objective of this council, and all of us resolved unanimously when we placed the Fairer Future plan on public exhibition that we should undertake stage 2 of that work, which would focus significantly, primarily, on the Parramatta Road corridor. I want to see us partner with the New South Wales government to undertake that work. And there's a couple of important reasons for doing so. The first is that through a state significant development process, rather than the ratepayers of the Inner West having to pay for the investigations and the planning work that would need to be undertaken, the New South Wales government would instead. That is not a singular reason for such a partnership, but it may save us $1.5 or $2 million of ratepayers' money, which is quite a useful thing. We also know that the state government has all of the levers, including in relation to transport, education, housing, and other crucial services, to be able to undertake this sort of planning proposal comprehensively. And by partnering with the government, we can ensure that it's done through the same sort of locally based planning process through which we've undertaken the Fairer Future Plan. And so on that basis, I seek the support of councillors for us to partner with the New South Wales Government in delivering new homes in the Parramatta Road corridor. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Scott. Do you wish to speak to it?
I will speak to it. It is a stated priority of the community that the housing in the LGA should be more balanced across the north and the south of the LGA. And that, as a north side representative, is also a stated priority for me. And that is because more housing is good. It is good for us to have more places that people might be able to afford to buy if they want to stay in the communities that they grew up in. It is good for our main streets and our businesses when there are more people around to shop locally. It is good for our climate and our environment. It is good for our public transport systems when there are people there to catch the bus and leave the car at home. It is good for our schools, and they might start seeing enrolments that look like they're going upwards instead of downwards. This is something that can only be good for our community, unambiguously good. I am all in favour of having as much housing as we can in the right places, and sometimes that includes Parramatta Road. Not good for much stuff, it might be good for this.
Thanks very much, Councillor Scott. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or to speak against it? Councillor Macri?
Chair, I've put forward an amendment. I hope it can be supported.
Yep.
And that is that council engage the affected community in consultation prior to a proposal on the Parramatta Road corridor for the residential rezoning to seek their views. And that is actually to see where there is a welcoming, because I think we missed a lot of opportunities in the Fairer Future Plan when we didn't go to the community first and say who has any ideas and just inform them, and let's take those ideas on board early and build on those. I just think it's a good thing to do that.
What if I were to agree that in point 1B, the wording be amended to say the planning process should also include comprehensive community consultation, including with landowners?
Yes, but it has to, I want it to occur before, not they comment on what. I want to hear if they have proposals themselves. I want to hear from them, because
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to turn it into words that will take effect in the motion. Can I ask the minute takers to amend point 1B? Preliminary, is that the right word? What's a word that we could use that would mean that comprehensive community consultation with landowners would take place prior to the development of the plans?
Seek their views.
Early consultation?
Early. Yes. There you go. Thank you, Councillor Howard. The planning process should also include early comprehensive community consultation, comma.
Targeted in the...
I'm doing my best here.
Yeah, no worries.
Early comprehensive community consultation, comma, including with landowners, comma. So I'm not saying it should only be the landowners. You happy with that?
Yep, excellent.
Great. Okay, so the amendment's redundant. Further amendments? Councillor Blake?
I don't have an amendment, but I wish to speak against
this
proposed motion.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm speaking in opposition to this motion, and while I share your passion and Councillor Scott's passion for more homes on the Parramatta Road corridor, we believe that yes, this is the place for density. But however, handing the planning proposal over to state significant development is untenable. We've seen time and time again that the state government can't be trusted. There is not a bad planning proposal that they will not run headstrong into. We believe that the answers for the Inner West should be delivered by the Inner West. We have the experts on the ground, and wherever you sit on the spectrum of whether you think the Fairer Future Plan is good or bad, it is undoubtedly a plan that has the Inner West first and foremost at its heart. So we feel that's the appropriate place to do the rezoning along Parramatta Road. Second, the other point I would like to take up is that This runs counter to the Inner West's commitment to preserving employment zones. The large parts of Camperdown included in this zone form the homes of many small businesses, both commercial and light industrial, as well as the Greens Party headquarters. So there's clearly a deliberate attack of the Greens. Not really, I take that back.
You're right.
But yes, so many. It also includes schools, early childhood centres. I just cannot trust this state government that they would not sell off Bridge Road Public School under this proposal. However, having said all that, there is a hint here of future transport infrastructures, and if in your right of reply, Mayor, that you would like to announce that this is leading to light rail along Parramatta Road, then my opposition might change. But at this stage, this is not a good plan for the Inner West.
So for clarity, Councillor Blake, you have no amendment to improve the resolution. You're simply outright opposed to it?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you for that. Further, are there any amendments to the primary motion or anyone else who wishes to speak against it? No? I'll waive my right of reply. I'll put the Byrne-Scott motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That is 10 votes in favour. All those against? 3 votes against. That has been carried. That brings us to item 38, early childhood education reforms.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to go through the whole background that is already in the motion. I'm assuming that you've all read it. And I don't think I need to go over all the terrible reports of things that have happened in for-profit early childhood education and care centres at this point in time, including this very afternoon in the Sydney Morning Herald, yet another example. This motion is intended to ensure that local government New South Wales policy supports councils to put in place staffing ratios that keep children safe, protect staff, and indeed to expand provision of early childhood education and care, both by councils like ours that already provide such good early childhood early learning, but also councils that at the moment do not, so that all children are able to access high quality and safe education and care. In order to do so, councils need appropriate funding, and the preference and focus needs to be on not-for-profit childcare, including council care. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Barlow. Do you wish to speak to it?
I will speak briefly, thank you, Chair. Look, with 62% of educators expressing that they will leave in the next few years in a SNAP poll conducted by the United Workers Union, it's without question that the early learning sector is in crisis. With low wages, high workloads, many educators find themselves in financial and housing stress. This work is some of the most important work we have in our community, educating the most vulnerable people in our community, and we must steadfastly refuse any decline in the quality of care and education in early childhood education. We know that public early learning is the safest form of operation. Our CEQA sector snapshot showed that council-operated services are almost 4 times more likely to exceed national standards than private centres run for profit. This is in part because wages are generally higher in the public sector, and so are staffing ratios, so the conditions of work are much more appropriate for longevity of staffing, as well as limiting the profit motive to enrol as many children in a centre under as few educators as possible. Council centres also, as highlighted by LG New South Wales recently, take the majority of children with additional needs. This is because working class families can't afford private centres and rely on affordable council options. This motion recommends practical steps towards addressing this crisis and ensuring that all children get the best care and education we can provide.
Thanks very much, Councillor Barlow. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion or to amend it?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment.
Yes, Councillor Carlisle.
And if I could have that put up on the screen. I don't disagree with anything that Councillor Atkins and Barlow have stated, but my amendments call for a broader holistic reform to the system.
Just before you speak to them, Councillor Carlisle, I'm going to seek clarification Now, I know that there's been consultation on these amendments, so I'm going to seek clarification from the mover about whether they will be incorporated in their entirety, because if not, these are actually a number of amendments and each of them will need to be dealt with separately. So I'll go to Councillor Atkins to ask if some or all of the amendments that have been proposed will be incorporated.
No, they will not. And through you, Mayor, I would like to ask the Manager of Governance whether, in fact, this forms a foreshadowed motion.
Well, hold on. No, I don't think that's the correct way to do it. So I'm directing. Okay. I'm going to suggest to Councillor Carlisle that the complexity of that amendment would make it a foreshadowed motion. And so it's open to you to either table a foreshadowed motion or to work out how you'd like to separate these out into individual amendments, in which case, which might take a bit of time. So how would you like to proceed?
I think I'd prefer to table it as a foreshadowed motion.
Okay, great. So can I ask the minute takers to take Councillor Carlisle's words off the screen, reinstitute the primary motion. We're now debating the primary motion, but Councillor Carlisle, you can't move the foreshadowed motion unless the primary motion is defeated, but you are able to speak to the reasons for wanting to oppose the primary motion and what you would like to see in its place.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the foreshadowed motion acknowledges the New South Wales Government recent reforms and the Commonwealth's new powers to cut funding from unsafe providers, and I think these are really important steps that we need to acknowledge. The current system is not functional and it has created a market-driven approach that prioritises profit over safety. The evidence does show that for-profit providers are more likely to fall below acceptable standards, and the horrific experiences of children and families at the hands of some of these providers and the perpetrators are evidence of that. The current fragmented system where Commonwealth, state and local governments have overlapping responsibilities but no coordination simply isn't working. My foreshadowed motion would call for a broader change from a market-driven model to an actively managed system where quality and safety come first. Just asking the state government to fund the early childhood education and care sector is not the answer. The new motion asks the New South Wales State Government to work with other state and territory governments and the Commonwealth Government to develop a broad national agreement to properly fund regulators, to provide targeted support for high quality not-for-profit providers, including local councils uniquely positioned to deliver community-focused services. Here in the Inner West, our council's early childhood education and care services demonstrate exactly what quality, community-focused provision looks like, delivering excellent outcomes for children and families while prioritising safety and educational excellence over profit. The establishment of Early Childhood Reform Commission would provide the leadership this sector desperately needs. Local government can be part of the solution, but we need our state and federal colleagues to commit to significant reform that the sector requires. My motion reflects this rather than compounding the current complex arrangements by just adding another funding source.
Thanks very much, Councillor Carlisle. So we're still debating the primary motion from Councillors Atkins and Barlow. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak against that motion or to amend it? If not, I will go to Councillor Atkins for a right of reply, noting that Councillor Carlisle has foreshadowed a motion that will be considered if the primary motion is defeated. Councillor Atkins?
Public early childhood education and care needs proper funding. If we agree that the best place for children is in council or other not-for-profit centres, which is what we believe, then government needs to put its money where its mouth is. Any flinching in relation to support for public and not-for-profit early learning frankly puts children at risk right now. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Atkins. I'll now put the Atkins-Barlow motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? That's 3 votes in favour and 10 votes against. We'll now go to the foreshadowed motion that has been tabled by Councillor Carlisle, which you are now able to speak to as well. I'll ask that the underlining be removed because this is now the motion under consideration. I'll indicate my willingness to second the motion. Do you wish to speak to it?
No, I've got nothing further to add. Just that I think we're on the same page. It's just the way we're approaching it.
Thanks very much for that. I'll also waive my right to speak. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the foreshadowed motion or to speak against it?
I will just very briefly indicate my opposition to it for the reasons that I've already mentioned. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? That has been carried 10 votes to 3. Improving community resilience, embedding social workers in the Inner West Library System, which is a motion from Councillor Antonou. I'll seek the advice of her Greens colleagues. Do you wish to hold it over?
No, I will move it.
Okay.
The Inner West is a diverse place and not immune to the cost of living crisis. Services such as Adair Road and Bill Cruz Foundation have spoken openly about how demand has increased, but the types of people needing support is changing. People are being made more vulnerable and services touchpoints are increasingly becoming harder to access. Libraries are already places where people congregate, seek support and services, particularly young people. They are often the first touch point for people with councils. By starting the process of embedding social workers in our libraries, we can make sure that these people have a place where they can seek specific support and services. This is something that research supports, specifically to protect frontline council staff in our libraries by ensuring a trained professional is on site to support a broad range of needs which currently our library staff may be dealing with. This is already noted as an important investigation point in our operational plan, and now is the time to press go and build a model that works for us, service providers and vulnerable people. This will work in tandem with the Domestic Violence Survivor Hub's work. The model this motion asks for is to partner with existing services, and I would point to the fact that other jurisdictions are already doing this, including Marybeck Council in Victoria. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Liz. Councillor Atkins. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Barlow. Do you wish to speak to it?
Very briefly. This is a priority that our council has already committed itself to in our operational plan and budget point 3.2.6. The sad fact is library workers are already functioning in many ways as de facto social workers due to the increased number of people accessing library and associated services in crisis, experiencing financial stress or other social problems that are facing cuts in their specialised support services. As Councillor Atkins outlined, other councils have already implemented programs similar to this one in recognition of this increased need and the necessity of that need to have specialised support and help. The program is anticipated to have minimal cost to our council and will help to ensure that vulnerable people in the Inner West are given the best possible assistance when they need it most. Councillor Antonio has done great work on this motion and I commend it to the chamber.
Thanks very much, Councillor Barlow. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion or to speak against it?
Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment, please, if it
Yes,
can be shown on
Councillor
the
Carlisle.
screen.
Ask the minute takers to display the proposed amendment.
Thank you. As has been stated, embedding social workers in our libraries is an established council priority from October 2024, and working with local organisations to define the model will ensure that it not only benefits vulnerable young people, but also serves vulnerable residents across all age groups, from isolated seniors seeking connection, to families in crisis, to adults experiencing homelessness or mental health challenges. Our libraries are already informal refuges for diverse community members in need. The trial of our Domestic Violence Hub will directly inform how we develop this library-based social work initiative. We're learning from real experience about embedding social services in community settings, and those lessons will be invaluable. The amendment is proposing a roundtable at our flagship Marrickville Library in early 2026 and will bring together the Inner West Council Interagency Group, Department of Health, DCJ, professional social work bodies, universities, state government reps and our library staff. This is how you get the scope, service model and timeline right. Libraries are natural community hubs where vulnerable people already feel safe seeking help. By hosting this roundtable in our flagship library, stakeholders will experience firsthand the environment where these services will operate. The motion also demonstrates Council's commitment to evidence-based planning. We're not rushing into implementation. We're taking the time to get expert input, learn from our existing trials and develop a robust model that will genuinely serve our community's needs.
Now, preempting a potential suggestion that this is a foreshadowed motion rather than an amendment, there's nothing in the proposed wording from Councillor Carlisle that is in contravention of the primary motion other than potentially, although I think this is open to interpretation, replacement of a report coming back in November 2025 with hosting a roundtable in early 2026. And I'm still not sure that those two things are contradictory. But in the interest of collegiality and...
We will, I'll incorporate
That's
those.
incorporated?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to amend the motion or to speak against it? No? Okay. I don't believe there's a need for a right of reply. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried unanimously. That brings us to the items in Committee of the Whole, I think. Is that
Item
correct?
45, Mayor.
St Peter's Interchange. Sorry about that, Councillor
It's okay.
Howard.
The community was promised a park and it appears we're being left with a poison chalice. I want to reiterate the off-stated position of our council. This land was once a rubbish tip and we will not accept a rubbish park. The recent revelations in the Sydney Morning Herald make it clear the interim gas venting plan doesn't fix the source of pollution. Concerns have been raised by a key advisor at the EPA, warning it could make things worse in the long run. That's deeply concerning for residents, and I'll continue to fight for St Peter's residents. This is yet more proof of what St Peter's residents have already known for quite some time. The former Liberal government just made a promise it couldn't keep. And I want to acknowledge that the Honourable Jenny Atchison, the current New South Wales Minister for Roads, has recognised this failure and is committed to making good on that promise. In her comments in the same Sydney Morning Herald article, that was clear. So look, safety must come first. Transparency is non-negotiable, and Council will keep holding the New South Wales Government to account until our community gets the park it was promised. Anything else is total garbage.
Touché. That's moved by Councillor Howard, seconded by myself. I'll waive my right to speak. Does anyone wish to oppose the motion or to amend it?
I have an amendment, please, Mayor, which I have provided to the minute takers and to Councillor Howard before. I'm asking that we also get a report, not by the November 2025 meeting. Sorry, minute takers, I failed to change that. As soon as practicable, the same terms as point 3 of the original motion. Over the years since WestConnex was first proposed and we were promised this park, various councillors, including particularly Councillor Lockie, did a lot of work around this. Greens councillors and indeed Labor councillors in the past have moved motions which included writing letters to various ministers and to Transport for New South Wales, but we haven't necessarily seen responses or been advised as to what those responses were and what the proposals were. So I'm just asking that we actually get a report on the 3 previous resolutions of council. The community has a great interest in this. There is indeed an interest group which does regular reporting around this, and I know they are anxious to understand exactly what has happened over the last few years. So that is the reason for this amendment.
Okay. Councillor Howard, you happy to incorporate that into your primary motion?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, can I just flag, I support your, as the seconder, I support incorporating it also. I would like to just place down a marker that I think a regular practice of trawling back through, requiring staff to produce reports on resolutions from 2021, 2022 or 2023, particularly on issues such as this when we already know what the outcome was, which is the former government didn't listen and didn't take any action. I in the future will be reticent to support such proposals as I want to maximise the productivity of our staff. So that's incorporated. Is there anyone who wishes to further amend the motion? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, I think we are up to committee of the whole now. Is that correct? No one's disagreeing with me? Sorry, I get this piece of paper where everything gets struck out. It's not that I'm blind or inept, it's just it's actually quite difficult to follow after the Unglobo motion has been passed. Will someone move that we go into committee of the whole? Moved by Councillor Howard, seconded by Councillor Scott. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Could I ask the council officers to, there's no need to clear the chamber, but could I ask that the broadcast be discontinued and that we be notified when that has occurred? And that the doors be closed. Okay, we're back in open council. Having concluded the agenda, the business on the agenda, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thanks very much, everybody.